Football is a microcosm of America. All races, religions, living, playing, competing, side by side. I pray we dedicate ourselves to be the best team we can be. Let's choose to be for one another, to fulfill the promise of one nation, to be part of the solution, be part of the change.
NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell testified this past week as part of a congressional investigation into the Washington Commanders' workplace practices. The Commanders have been criticized by more than a dozen former employees who said it was a toxic environment that included sexual harassment of female workers. For more on this, I spoke yesterday with sports journalist and ESPN contributor Howard Bryant. Howard, it's great to have you with us. And these allegations, as you know, against the Washington football team, they date back 20 years. And at the House Oversight hearing this past week, Roger Goodell said that the team's negative culture no longer exists. But he said that the environment under owner Daniel Snyder was unprofessional and unacceptable. So why then does Goodell and the rest of the team owners continue to stand by Dan Snyder? Number one,
Roger Goodell simply cannot say that a certain workplace culture doesn't exist anymore. That's his opinion, whether it works or not. If you talk to the people who work at that place, they're still talking, and they're still talking off the record to many people in the media. The biggest reason why they abide by it is because they're part of a private club. Once you're an insider, you don't criticize other insiders. It's part of that club, and because they all know that if you turn on them, one day they may turn on you. That's exactly what this ownership group is. It's a private club. They decide who's in it, and they keep it as private as possible. The short answer really is that the owners do not want to break ranks, even if it includes enabling someone like Daniel Snyder.
So what does that all then mean for Goodell's credibility? Because the other thing that struck me was that in that hearing, he confirmed many of the claims about the Commanders' culture found in that investigation by attorney Beth Wilkinson, but he still refused to release the full report. He only released a summary of it.
Well, I think, Jeff, the biggest mistake that we make, and we do it in all sports, it's not simply the NFL, but especially in the NFL because it's the biggest sport out there financially, is that the commissioner is some sort of moral arbiter, that the commissioner is a moral guide for the sport. And he's not. He is the mouthpiece for the owners. He works for the owners. They pay his salary. And so in terms of credibility, his job is to protect them. He gets that $44 to $50 million a year for that, to appear for that very type of testimony, to protect this team, to protect every team, whether it's Washington or whether it's the Patriots or the Cowboys or any of the other ones.
Yeah. I also want to ask you about what happened this past week. You had Browns QB Deshaun Watson settling 20 of the 24 lawsuits against him over allegations that he sexually harassed and even assaulted massage therapists in the Houston area. 4 of Watson's accusers didn't settle, so that could be bad news for him, not only in court, civil court, criminal court potentially, but also in the court of the NFL. What kind of punishment is he looking at?
Well, the way that it's been described so far is that he's probably looking at a year suspension. Clearly, the Browns are expecting a year suspension. And the reason why I say that with such certainty is when you look at Deshaun Watson's contract, when he was brought into Cleveland, that contract was structured to essentially mitigate a suspension. And instead of deciding whether this is the sort of character that you want in your franchise, that you want this person to represent you, you've decided to protect his money by structuring a contract that essentially protects him and his salary from a potential suspension.
And Howard, as you well know, I mean, in the years after the Ray Rice scandal, the NFL said it was going to redouble its efforts to look at its culture across the board. I think these two incidents, what's happening with the Commanders and what happened with Deshaun Watson, I mean, it's clear that the league has much more work to do.
One of the things with the NFL is the question as to whether or not you can have a financial juggernaut and a moral decline happening simultaneously. And people enable the NFL simply because it's a $15 billion machine. It's supposed to, revenues are going to balloon out to $25 billion over the next decade. And it's essentially a too big to fail operation. but that doesn't mean that it's an honorable operation.
Howard Bryant, appreciate you and appreciate your insights as always. Thanks for being with us.
Get a job, 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 get a job.
July 1st is this Friday, which means we're a little over halfway through 2022. Last year was dubbed the Great Resignation, as millions across the country quit their jobs. WMFE's Talia Blake caught up with Orlando Economic Partnership CEO Tim Giuliani to discuss the state of the job market now in Central Florida and what you can do if you're looking for a career change.
In reference to where we were at a workforce around 1.3, almost 1.4 million people. We are just about back to where we were before the pandemic. We're 0.1% short, but the unemployment rate has dropped, which means, more people that want jobs have jobs.
What is the current employment rate here in Central Florida?
Currently, we're at 2.6%, which is below what a lot of economists have always understood to be full employment. It's actually 0.5% lower than we were before the pandemic.
So we've seen the inflation numbers, we've seen and are experiencing the dramatic increases for the cost of housing here in Central Florida. How do you continue to attract workers with all that going on?
Growth comes with challenges, and we simply need to do two things. We need to make it easier and less expensive to build houses in Central Florida, or units, I should say, because we need all types, not just single family. We obviously need a lot of multifamily housing. And so we need to make that easier. Number two is in the fall in Orange County, we'll have the opportunity to vote for a 1-cent sales tax on transportation. So when you talk about affordability, that's a great opportunity to give people way more affordable options on how to get around, how to get to work, or how to get to school.
Right, so that way more people can venture further for work if they need to and sustain and maintain their life.
Yeah, one thing we were shocked to learn. So if you rely on transit in Central Florida, you have access in a 30-minute commute to 5,000 jobs. If that same person in a 30-minute commute has access to a car, they have access to 500,000 jobs.
Do you think that thinking about how your skills could transfer to another industry is how people are going to start looking at their next potential job?
I think not only are people going to be looking at how to transfer skills, but companies are looking at skills-based hiring. This is a trend that we're seeing in human resource departments. With everyone struggling to find workers, looking at their actual skills instead of maybe just years of experience or a degree is actually a much better indicator if they're able to do the job or not. And we worked, for instance, on skills-based hiring training with Orange County Public Schools. They were having trouble competing against private sector companies for their IT jobs. So they identified through skills-based hiring that people that were maybe at lower levels within their IT department actually had the skills. They didn't necessarily have the degrees, but they had been in the field building their skills through trainings and experience, and they were qualified on a skills analysis to fill those jobs.
Lastly, where would you point people if they were looking for resources on trying to see where these jobs are here in Orlando, or maybe they want to go apply for something?
Within our community, we have Career Source Central Florida, and it's a great resource for people to understand and to talk to somebody about, to your earlier question about skills. How do I craft my resume to feature the true value that I could bring to a company? And so CareerSource does a nice job of helping people with their resumes.
That was OEP's Tim Giuliani.
Fear of a recession is leading to layoffs, and a few companies have already announced job cuts.
JP Morgan Chase is one of them. Netflix also just did a second round of layoffs, and Tesla is slashing its salaried workforce by 10%.
NPR's David Gura is here to talk about what's going on. David, we named a few companies, but how widespread are these cuts, and actually what's causing them?
Yeah, so far layoffs have been confined to parts of the economy that experienced high growth in recent years. Just think about the companies you mentioned. They're in entertainment, in technology, in finance. They thrived for years when interest rates were low and borrowing was cheap, but in the last 6 months, things have changed dramatically as the Federal Reserve has started hiking rates aggressively to fight high inflation. Other companies that have had layoffs recently did really well during the pandemic. When gyms were closed, people got Pelotons. There were millions of people stuck at home who started trading stocks with Robinhood. But here we are. Gyms are back open. Robinhood just cut 9% of its staff. So the bottom line, is a growing number of companies recognize the winds are shifting and that they may need to pare down.
I'd have sworn we were just talking about how hot the job market is. People quitting their jobs, record rates, and everyone's talking about the great resignation. So what happened?
Yeah, absolutely. There was this pent-up demand to do stuff as we came out of the darkest days of the pandemic. People were spending. Many of them had stimulus money from the government, and employers just couldn't find enough workers. Then all of a sudden, workers were demanding higher pay. The outlook for the U.S. economy has changed rapidly. Prices are rising at their fastest annual pace in more than 4 decades, and the Fed is trying to force companies to spend less. Higher interest rates are slowing down the housing market, which has led to layoffs in real estate. Those cuts at J.P. Morgan were talking about hundreds of jobs in the bank's mortgage business. Andy Challenger is with the firm Challenger, Gray & Crispus. It tracks layoffs nationwide, and he says there's going to be less hiring.
Even if the Fed achieves the perfect soft landing, it's still going to mean an increase in layoffs.
And Challenger adds, if the Fed does tip the economy into a recession, it's likely we'll see broader layoffs and even deeper cuts.
All right, so that's terrible news for people who've lost their jobs. How worried should we be then about the rest of the jobs market?
Well, Fed Chair Jerome Powell told lawmakers recently the Fed's goal here is not to kickstart a recession, but it does want to remove some froth from the economy.
There's more job openings than there are, by a factor of 2 to 1, than there are unemployed people looking for work.
Again, if you look at where job cuts have been so far, they've been in these frothier, more speculative parts of the economy. Crypto is a great example. The cryptocurrency exchange Coinbase just laid off more than 1,000 workers. And what's tricky is the Fed has these really blunt tools to try to fight inflation, and it takes time to see if they're working. On top of that, there's a lot happening right now that the Fed just can't do much about. It's not going to find a solution to the war in Ukraine, for instance, or it won't be able to unclog global supply chains.
So what are the risks of this? What should we be watching out for?
Well, a big risk is that this could be kind of self-fulfilling. Companies so worried about a potential economic downturn cut jobs early, thereby accelerating an economic downturn. And there's a risk that they could cut too much. If job losses get broader, as Andy Challenger said, of course, more people would be out of work without any money to spend. The U.S. economy runs on consumer spending, and something we'll watch for, is if these cuts start hitting the rest of the economy, where most people work.
NPR's David Gura, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
If LA's street food scene had a logo, it would be a food truck. Because in this city designed for cars, what could be more fitting than a restaurant on wheels? LA has more food trucks than anywhere else in the U.S. There are thousands of them serving up cutting-edge cuisine and bringing life to public spaces. But with gas prices in LA at more than $6 a gallon, the food trucks are struggling. That has some people, such as Susanna Davidoff of West Hollywood, worried.
It's part of our culture. It's part of our weekend tradition. And if you start seeing these taco trucks kind of disappearing from the streets of LA, it's not going to feel like LA. It would be horrible.
Susanna and her mom were waiting for their food from a truck called Tacos y Birria La Única. It's a family business run by 33-year-old Yahmani Mendoza, along with his mom, dad, brother, and 2 sisters.
We do tacos, Mexican food, tortas, quesadillas, burritos.
And he's clearly proud of what they built.
Family-owned and operated businesses are different from like any other business because it's love. We want everything to come out perfect.
Inside the truck, family members chop onions and beef. It used to be a FedEx delivery vehicle. Now there's a kitchen where packages were stored. And from the fryers to the fridges, the truck requires a lot of fuel to operate.
We use gas to move our food truck for transportation, and we use gas for our generator. It turns on our fridges and everything.
Mendoza used to be able to fill the tank with $125. Right now it costs $200.
And with the gas prices going up, it makes everything go up. Like, for example, the vegetables, the meat.
Have you had to make choices and sacrifices somewhere else to make sure that you can afford the gasoline?
Well, yeah, we have to save. We don't waste as much food or supplies as we used to because everything's expensive.
I talk to somebody every day that's making a decision on whether to vend or not based on how far it is.
Matthew Geller is a CEO of the National Food Truck Association.
I mean, it used to be you take a lunch in the South Bay and then drive to a dinner in the Valley, and they just don't do that anymore. They're being very, very careful about how they waste that gas because every dollar that goes into your tank doesn't go in your pocket.
Now, you think it'd be simple. Expenses are up, raise the price of the food, but for a street food vendor, it's complicated.
If you don't raise up your prices, well, you're not going to make money. But at the same time, you can't raise it too high because some customers are going to complain. So the business owners make less money because everything's higher.
Yeah. When you have to come up to a point where, you got to charge a quarter more or say 50 cents more, is it something that you agonize about?
Well, sometimes we don't want to because, customers, they feel it in their pockets too. But sometimes there's no option. We always like to sell our food, at a, reasonable price where the people like the food and customers come back.
22, Lisa, número 22.
And so far, his customers have kept coming back, and it's kept Mendoza and his family's food truck in business for 5 years now.
We started with a food truck, and now we have two, but hopefully in the near future we could have a brick and mortar, a restaurant or something.
That's what many of these trucks represent for families like the Mendozas, a chance to dream of something more, an entry point to establish a name, build a business from the ground up, and create a base of wealth that can be passed down to another generation of Mendozas. For now, the family is still able to roll out their taco trucks 6 days a week, but they're praying that tacos y birria la única won't become a casualty of inflation. If this continues, and if gas prices continue to stay like they are here in California, $6 a gallon, what are you thinking about if things don't improve?
We don't know what might happen, but if everything keeps going up, gas, the whole products we use for our food truck, well, it's going to affect us a lot.
Are you concerned at all?
Yeah, we are concerned a lot because we've seen other businesses that are closing their doors, restaurants, food trucks, and we don't want that to happen to us.
Now, we called the County of Los Angeles to find out how many food trucks have actually gone out of business since the start of the pandemic. And what we learned is that since the fall of 2019, the number of permitted food trucks has actually increased by over 400. I asked Matthew Geller, CEO of the National Food Truck Association, what gives.
It is an alternative to opening up restaurants, which a lot of vendors don't believe is viable right now.
He also said the number of active permits doesn't always reflect the number of actual working trucks. Bottom line, Geller says, between inflation and high gas prices, it is tough out there.
I know quite a few trucks that have thrown up their hands that finally just said, that's enough. This isn't worth it anymore.
Back in the taco truck, as I was packing my stuff to leave, Yasmani made me an offer that was hard to refuse.
Right now, I'm going to give you some tacos so you could eat. Yeah, before you guys eat, these are our famous tacos.
But I did refuse the tacos. This, after all, wasn't an interview about how good the tacos are. The next day, however, I went to their other taco truck location, and they were so good that I didn't mind burning a few gallons of that high-priced California gas to get there.
Flying high in the friendly sky.
Jason Ambrosi has been a Delta pilot for 22 years, and he loves his job. But
we've helped our airline recover by flying record amounts of overtime. Our pilots spend more time away from our families, and we do that to get our customers safely to their destination. It's time for the company to recognize those contributions.
Ambrosi, who is also head of the pilots union at Delta, will be among hundreds of pilots picketing at Hartsfield-Jackson tomorrow. Similar scenes are planned at Delta hubs all throughout the U.S. They say Delta is relying too much on overtime, leaving pilots overworked and paid under a contract that was inked in 2016. When Captain Ambrosi and I spoke earlier, he told me it is about pay, but not only about pay.
Passenger demand has come back at levels that were not foreseen, and the airline is bringing back flying and scheduling more flying than we can handle responsibly right now. In every summer in the past, there'd be overtime for pilots to pick up to help because the summer busy travel season. What's different this summer, Jim, is that we've been flying these record amounts of overtime for at least a year. So pilots have been doing this, month in and out to do this for the company and for our passengers, and they're getting fatigued. Just to give you some context, by the end of the summer, we'll have flown more overtime periods than all of 2018 and 2019 combined. They've basically had enough.
And is this because there are fewer pilots now because of, a slim down during the pandemic?
Yeah, so, management displaced pilots more rapidly than they should have. So what's happened is we had a very good early out program for pilots that decided to retire early. All those things have resulted in not having as many pilots as we had before, but we still have the airplanes and the demand is out there. So obviously trying to capture all that revenue and get our passengers to where they want to go, the airline is scheduling more flying than we can do.
In advance of this busy travel weekend, we've seen days of widespread cancellations going all the way back to Memorial Day weekend, more expected, of course, over July 4th. And pilots blame the airline a lot for these cancellations. How specifically?
They're making that hard safety call to say, look, I can't do it anymore. I'm tired. I need to take a break. And it unfortunately results in, less operational reliability than the Delta passengers our customers have come to expect. So it is an issue, as I said.
What would you say to the traveling public who tomorrow might show up at the airport and see you all outside picketing? What would you like them to know?
Well, first, we're not on strike. We are there on our off days to demonstrate to the company the importance of coming to the table and fixing not only our schedules, but giving us the contract that recognizes our spot in the industry. We want the passengers to share our frustration. I will say, you may be aware, we did pickets earlier this year that were centered just about the schedules and the poor quality of our schedules in the post-pandemic realm. And the feedback we've gotten from passengers has been very positive. They share that frustration, and they're very appreciative of what the Delta pilots have done.
My last question deals with kind of the long-term effects. What do you think this does to the image of the airline long-term among passengers?
We are concerned about the long-term damage to our brand. The Delta pilots are stakeholders. We can't uproot and go to one other airline and get us an equivalent position at another airline because, seniority, we're tied to Delta Airlines. We're long-term stakeholders, and we are urging the company to schedule with reliability in order to give our customers back what they've come to expect from Delta.
Captain Jason Ambrosi is a Delta pilot and chair of Delta's Master Executive Council, which is a unit of the Airline Pilots Association International. Captain Ambrosi, thank you for talking to us this afternoon. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Jim. I look forward to speaking to you again sometime.
A Delta Airlines spokesperson tells WABE in a statement that this will not disrupt operations and that the company has restarted contract negotiations that had been paused for nearly 2 years because of the pandemic. Delta says its goal remains to provide pilots with an industry-leading overall contract with the best compensation based on pay, retirement, work rules, and profit sharing.
It's possible Delta Airlines might be in the news again this holiday weekend because of potential travel disruptions. And if that happens, Delta will have company. According to the travel website thriftytraveler.com, since yesterday, American has canceled 500-plus flights and counting. United is up to 200. Bad weather will complicate the equation. So what gives? We're going to ask Gunnar Olson that. He's a flight deal analyst and editor at Thrifty Traveler. Gunnar, welcome to the program. How are you?
Hi, Kathy. I'm well. How about you?
Good. Thanks for being here. So I guess more than 500 flights canceled just today. And Delta announced yesterday it's going to allow travelers to reschedule flights free of charge this weekend. That seems to be a sign of more trouble ahead.
Yeah, we definitely think so. And I think Delta's waiver that they announced yesterday is them kind of admitting that there's going to be logistical challenges at our airports all across the country this weekend.
Delta has been complaining of staffing shortages. Earlier this summer, it said it would cut, 100 flights a day. Is that still a factor here?
Yes, definitely. I think, what has happened in the last month is they have not been able to staff up to pre-pandemic levels. And that means that their routes, their network around the country is going to be disrupted because travel demand is as high as it was before the pandemic. So everyone is taking back to the skies, but there's not enough people above and below the wing to staff those routes right now. So I think that's going to lead to some of this pain that they're expecting this weekend and that we've been seeing over the last couple weekends.
I saw a figure somewhere, maybe you saw it too, some 50,000 airline workers left or were let go at the height of the pandemic. What are airlines doing to find workers?
Yeah, I think that's about right. Basically, the airlines are doing whatever they can to find workers, within their own ranks and from other airlines. For instance, the smaller regional carriers, some of which fly under the Delta flag, for instance, are having some of their staff taken up to the main Delta carrier. So some of those smaller routes are having issues with their staffing, and it's kind of as those people trickle up. But I know all the airlines have made a big point of making sure that they're hiring pilots quickly. There are some hurdles as far as training hours, the amount of time that pilots need in order to safely fly all of these airlines. But right now they're staffing up as quickly as they can.
So airlines are cutting flights to balance staffing, and as they say, they hope to increase reliability, but that doesn't seem to be happening.
Right. This is things like this, the free change waiver that Delta has just issued for this weekend. They typically reserve these things for storms, weather events, whether it be thunderstorms or snowstorms, other inclement weather that's impacting flights. But, this is a very different kind of storm for them, and one that they're not going to be able to ride out very easily. So they're bracing for this. They're hiring as fast as they can, but I think for this summer, we can expect there to be at least some disruptions.
What's this doing to Delta's brand and really to trust in the industry as a whole?
Yeah, well, for Delta in particular, they've prided themselves for a long time on being the on-time carrier. Reliability has been so big for them and a huge part of their brand. And they've been able to do that because they build slack into their system. There are, pilots, flight attendants, there are people waiting at their major hubs to fill in on canceled flights. Without that slack, Delta has become pretty much just like every other airline. We're seeing Delta lead the way in cancellations last weekend. They also had a big meltdown over Memorial Day weekend. I know people, especially in the Twin Cities area and in Minnesota, still love Delta because of the connectivity here out of the MSP hub. But it's definitely something to look at, that their reputation has taken a little bit of a hit. But obviously, they're not alone here. So many airlines are dealing with these same issues. Delta, because of their reputation as a reliable carrier, probably just a little more so.
And as all this is happening, ticket prices have increased more than 45% since January, which is eye-popping. And the flying experience, which really wasn't, let's face it, great to begin with, seems as though it's bad as it's ever been. How do the ticket prices fold into all of this? Well,
we are seeing overall, on average, ticket prices are much higher than they used to be. Like you said, 40-something percent. In a lot of cases, the demand is back for travel. People are ready to fly. And this summer, people are proving that they're willing to pay just about anything to fly. That's not to say that there aren't really good deals out there. Airfare is ultimately a competitive business. And on the routes where there's lots of competition between airlines, we're still finding some really good low airfare. But it's definitely expensive. If you're going to your cousin's wedding for a weekend this summer, it's probably going to cost you. But as we look out into fall, things are a little bit more normal than we're seeing. So if you can stomach saving your trip until September, October, November, there's plenty of good deals out there. We're finding them every day. But this summer, there's no doubt there's a little bit of pain as far as your wallet when we're flying this summer.
Say, give me an idea, if you would, please, about deals you're seeing yet this summer.
Yeah, so, this summer, we've seen a lot of value on flights internationally. I think the best value is going to be to Lisbon, Portugal, and not to Los Angeles. The domestic airfare is sky high right now. There's so much demand for people to get around the country. But if you look overseas, you're actually going to find some really good value. All throughout this summer, we found great flight deals to Europe, flying Europe. So think about Ireland's Aer Lingus, Portugal's TAP, Scandinavia's SAS, Icelandair, which flies in and out of Minneapolis too. There's a lot of value on those carriers, and they have some nonstop flights too, which people are obviously interested in right now. You don't want to make a connection if you can avoid it at this point, so you don't get delayed or canceled. But one thing, we've seen some eye-popping stuff. Down to Cape Town, South Africa from Minneapolis for less than $600 round trip. And, that's a record low from Minneapolis. So there's lots of stuff out there. If you're willing to leave the country and without the return testing requirement, it's a little bit easier to do so than it was before.
Say, I'm glad you mentioned try to get a nonstop flight if you can, because if folks are planning to travel for this weekend and they're hearing, oh my gosh, this could be kind of a mess, how do you prepare for something like this? Yeah,
so there are some quick and easy tips. We actually have some on our website at thriftytraveler.com. You can read all of them, but the best thing to do is, especially if you're flying Delta, take advantage of this waiver and go change your flight and pick the very first flight of the day. The early flight is much less prone to cancellations and delays. As the day goes on, there's a ripple effect of cancellations and delays where the crews that need to be in Minneapolis for your next flight might not be able to get there because of their cancellation, and so on and so forth. So go book that early flight with this travel waiver. You won't have to pay for the change fee. There's no fare difference applied either. Like I mentioned before, fly nonstop if you can. I know that's easier said than done in some cases, but the more flights you take, the better your chances are for getting disrupted. And then otherwise, just some simple things we usually recommend. Don't check a bag. This is especially so right now. The bag drop line at the airport, especially at MSP right now, that's the worst pinch point in your travel experience. We've seen people waiting up to an hour just to get their bag on the conveyor belt, and that's before they even get to the security line. Plus, the airlines are losing bags at record levels, partially due to these staffing concerns. So don't chance it. If you can avoid it, control your own destiny. And then finally, get to the airport early. I love the memes of people making fun of dads who are a little overzealous in getting to the airport early, but yes. I think dad's going to be vindicated this weekend. It's just good advice to take your time, get there early.
Yeah. Well, Gunnar, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. And if you're flying, good luck this weekend.
Thank you, Kathy.
You're welcome. Gunnar Olson is a travel reporter, flight deal analyst at thriftytraveler.com.
Today we celebrate Juneteenth, which commemorates the end of slavery in the United States. This is an American holiday.
First at 5, a big hang-up over a wrong number on the Midcoast. Good evening, I'm Jen Long.
And I'm Dan Lamparello. A Maine business is drawing national backlash for a racist sign.
But as CBS 13's Mel Meyer explains, a different company 3 hours away is now bearing the brunt of the outrage. It's a story you'll only see on CBS 13.
Thank you for calling Reed Family Insurance Advisors. This is Nate.
The phone started ringing a lot more than usual Tuesday morning, the day after Juneteenth.
And I didn't know what was going on, so I just thought business is getting good.
Nate Reed quickly realized something was wrong after a reporter called looking for comment.
I said, I don't even know what you're talking about. She said, well, you might want to go online because there's this post going around on Reddit.
The photo initially shared on Facebook shows a sign outside a business reading, Juneteenth. It's whatever, we're closed. Enjoy your fried chicken and collard greens.
I would love to see better for this community.
The message was put up at the Harry E. Reid Insurance Agency in Millinocket. This is Reed Family Insurance Advisors, 150 miles away in Damariscotta.
I hope that burns down to the ground.
Ever since the photo went viral, his company has been inundated with furious voicemails, Google reviews, and messages.
We are not affiliated nor associated with, it just happens to be the same last name.
What was it like to have your business associated with that message by mistake?
It was heartbreaking.
Nate Reed says it runs completely counter to what he believes in.
We want to treat everybody like family. We are here for everyone. We're just trying to let everybody know that it's not us.
That's why he's trying to set the record straight. The whole ordeal has made him scared for his family and his business, all because of misdirected anger.
My message to others would be to do your research, do your due diligence, because there are good people out there that can be ruined by one bad thing.
We tried calling the actual company that posted the sign, but we were unable to get through. In Damerscott, Mel Meyer, CBS 13 News.
Context of White Supremacy. Gusty Renegade in for another broadcast, hopefully to share constructive information on the system of white supremacy. Today's date, Friday, July 1, 2022, so I have been told. This is our weekly summit on neutralizing workplace racism. Now, I thought we were like all done with Juneteenth, moving on, Independence Day, right? They got all their tacky, no fireworks signs posted all over town and what have you. I guess if I give my PSA before we get back to Juneteenth, since it is holiday weekend, this would be a great time. You might, Gus is a coon. He doesn't know what he's talking about. That might be true. Even Dr. Welson, all her talking about sobriety and all that, she might not know what she's talking about either. That might be true. But this weekend, I would pretend at least that on that one point about sobriety for this weekend, they might know what they're talking about. That would be a great idea to enforce, share with your offspring, people that you care about. If you all are out at the BBQ, hey, sobriety would be best. They are going to have sobriety checkpoints. I am at the beach now. I was at the beach. Oh, it was today. I forgot it was today. So I was coming from being like at the water beach, not at a distance, right? So I'm coming back, and the enforcement officials are driving down to go to the beach. Now, if I was at Alki Beach, lamest beach in Seattle, I expect to see the enforcement officers, I expect to see them like driving down on the sand and everything. Richmond Beach, really most of the other beaches in Seattle, I do not expect to see the fuzz. They were at Richmond Beach, and I was like, oh yeah, it's the holiday weekend. This is not even an area where Negroes are allowed to reside. So, especially if you're hanging out, if the BBQ is in a non-white area, sobriety checkpoints, all of that, you do not want to consume anything. Nothing. No poisons, no narcotics. If you have to consume something with whatever they're grilling up, you need to stay put. No traveling, no be on the road, especially if you're in one of those beach areas, rowdy towns and what have you, or an area with a sizable population of black people. I'd say from now, probably through next weekend. And I wouldn't want to be around firecrackers at all. They were talking about the NFL, what's his name? Jean-Paul Pierre. I think he's won a few Super Bowls and what have you, and he missed the whole year of NFL salary. Mangled his hand 4th of July fireworks. Like, are you serious? They got droughts in places too. They mess around and start fires and burn down the whole neighborhood with all that nonsense. None of that. Fire safety. Get an amen from retired firefighter. Fire safety this week. That goes for the grilling, all of that. Now, tacky holidays aside, speaking of tacky holidays, all that, I thought we were done with Juneteenth. I didn't see that last report in Maine. The white bit, they mixed it up. One, that this was an insurance business, the racist offender, where they put the sign up, we're closed. Juneteenth, whatever. Enjoy your fried chicken and collard greens, collards. They got it mixed up on the correct business. Now, hey, I say all the time, strive for accuracy. You never know. You get the wrong information. They could have been contacting a non-white business and, all the rest of it. Strive for accuracy. But I mean, really, that is terrible that happened to them, what have you, but I do not want to sit here like this white person is the victim. I am sure white people will come to their aid and go on Google and write 50 or 5,000 reviews oh, these folks are great and they are definitely not racist and all the rest and, all of that. And then go identify the racist who did put that sign up. Go to work. Anywho, this broadcast not for spectators. If you have figured out some things, they don't do that sort of thing on your job. They don't leave any sort of tacky signs and come up and kid you about Juneteenth. Oh, did you have your chitlins last weekend? All that. They don't do that. You get all of your raises, all of your promotions. You get extraordinary performance reviews every time. If you need it, hey, if you want to take the whole weekend off and Monday for so-called Independence Day, got to do some traveling. Delta might be acting crazy, might take me a little longer to get back. No problem. We'll see you on Wednesday. That's the sort of rapport that you have in your work environment. You got a great office. They don't mess you around on your schedule. Have you coming in at 8 a.m. on Friday and then have you coming in at 11 p.m. on Saturday. They don't do that. Consistent schedule, safe work environment. You are compensated correctly, valued, asset to the organization. If that's you, do not spectate. We would love to replicate some of your workplace comforts. The number is 720-716-7300. The code 564-943 #. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. The number again, 720-716-7300. The code 564-943 #. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. The email untiljustice@gmail.com. untiljustice@gmail.com. If you want to be anonymous or have concerns about your voice being recognized, drop an email. We can read your commentary. If you have suggestions, these are some strategies that might work out for people in their work environment, or if you have a situation you'd like some of our thoughts, counter-racist suggestions. Again, the goal is always solve problems without creating new problems. Workplace and beyond. Few things before we get to some of the folks who dialed in and some of the emails as well. The audio that we heard at the beginning, Malcolm Jamal Warner got his sound clip in there for the NFL promo. Anywho, that was Juneteenth. Already mentioned a little bit of that. Anywho, the NFL, they had the whole segment. I'm never going to say Commanders. It's going to be Washington Redskins until the system of white supremacy has been replaced. They did not want to change the name. People had asked for years, so this is really tacky and all the rest of it. We talked about some of this in the archives. I'm never calling them the Command. That report, maybe I'll think about it if they give the unredacted, unedited version of what kind of toxic workplace environment is going on here in Washington, D.C., nation's capital. What's going on here? Maybe I'll think about it, especially if they're going to report it, because that's the report. John Gruden got fired. They didn't even say anything about racism. That's, hey, we only got a little bit about that, and John Gruden talking about some rubber lips. They didn't even go into all the other details, like, wait a minute, what about the racist jokes and thing? Wait a minute. This is when Obama was in the White House and the sports team right in D.C. like, come on, man. You can give me 3 or 4 Obama jokes at least. They edited it all out. Just, yeah, Roger Goodell, that's the white man, the commissioner of the NFL. And they said, and that is important, the power dynamics that the white owners, and I'm glad they didn't get into that old boys exclusive club. They just said it's an exclusive club, because we went through the list before. Is quite a few white women who own NFL teams, including the Raiders, amongst many others. Anywho, but they talked about the exclusivity of the club and how these white owners, they pay Roger Goodell's hefty $1 million salary, whatever it is. I think they said like $40 million or whatever it is annually. They pay his salary. So he does their bidding. He's supposed to go and protect the Washington Redskins. And even the franchises that they named, the Dallas Cowboys, Cowboys and Indians. That's another reason I'm never going to call them the Commanders. Redskins, Cowboys, Patriots. No patriotism. It's just racism, white supremacy. Then they somehow segue from all this toxicity with the Commanders and the sexism they said and all that with the cheerleaders, left out the racism component. Somehow they hop from that. In other news, raping Negro Deshaun Watson still has 4 suits remaining. And isn't it a disgrace the Cleveland Browns structured his contract so that he doesn't have to endure financial penalties? Isn't this disgraceful? I thought they learned their lesson. Didn't we have that no-count Negro Ray Rice from before? And I talked about that and saying, man, anytime white people have video or they have some case and they wait, they don't do it immediately. They're not about justice immediately. They wait 7-8 months. All that Ray Rice video footage that they waited, that they had for 7-8 months, they waited and released it in the middle of those protests about Michael Brown Jr. Important for context, but anyways, thought they learned their lesson from all this with Ray Rice. It seems like they still have a lot of growing to do. Man, they didn't even indict Deshaun. Like, they left that out completely. Like, these civil cases, they want to settle, they don't want to settle, we'll see what happens. But they had an opportunity before Deshaun Watson was even traded. No indictment. I've seen how easy it is to indict a black football player. That was with the Raiders too. They just had a player who was drinking, driving. I think he killed someone, unfortunately, but he got indicted. Him being a football player didn't save him, O.J. Simpson. So that's not, hey, if he had done something incorrect, I suspect he would have been indicted in Texas. He wasn't. We'll see what happened in the era of Me Too. This wasn't like 50 years ago. This was recent Negro male history, and he didn't get indicted. Anyway, so they hop from the Redskins misconduct, no count, raping black males, beating black males, Ray Rice, and it's disgraceful. And then their final word is, well, it's too big to fail. They make all this money, and it's about to be $40 billion, they said, moving forward, 2025. They said, hey, it might be successful, but that doesn't mean it's moral. Now, there were many things disgraceful about that particular report, but really, point to the business that you think is moral in the system of white supremacy. How does the NFL even start? You can't even hire Negro coaches. Remember Johnny Cochran? Cynthia Wiggins? Yep, we talked about that. And O.J. Simpson and Reginald Denny. And Geronimo Pratt. NFL trying to get them to hire black coaches. Moral? What about the brain damage? What about that? They got Roger Goodell to go out and lie about all that. Didn't even want to compensate the black players correctly. Said that they had some sort of Negro brain trauma anyway. They're not very intelligent. They got the bell curve. So they're not they don't warrant the same type of compensation as a white athlete. They're not a Tom Brady out here. They're no Brett Favre. I should hope not. That's the NFL. Moral on the brain damage alone. We sit around and cheer for people to go out and, kill him. Mean it literally, too. Hope they have to get a stretcher and cart him off. Moral. In a system, with a team, in a same report, the Washington Redskins. It was the team song, and I bet you they still have people who sit in that stadium and sing it and fight for Old Dixie. That was the team song for years. They would go to the games and pelt their own black players. Negro, pow. But I just scored a touchdown for the Redskins. Negro. And I think they were playing on a federal land grant at the time doing all this, but neither here nor there. Moral. I'm disgusted. Again, point to the business, even volunteered, that you think is moral, whatever that means, in a system of white supremacy racism. As a vegan, I even look at PETA. I remember some of the advertisements that they've done. Animal protection and all that. Point to the group, business, volunteer group that you think is moral. Next, they talked about the cuts, layoffs in some of the tech industries, Tesla, Netflix. I saw Tesla, they were just in the news. They had a number of suits and allegations of white supremacy racism, but they had even more recent allegations this week, within the past few days. Maybe we'll share some of that if we have time. They used an interesting metaphor in talking about these tech industries. They said the frothier industries. Frothier. Now, I mean, are we at the Starbucks? I mean, this is Seattle, so Starbucks capital, but I mean, what? Frothier. That's like, now, I don't think frothy is in the word guide. I could be wrong, but I know cream of the crop is in there. The frothier, the whiter industries. Is so many different ways of suggesting and stating that we're talking about these are really powerful white people, or white people who make a lot of money. Frothier. No niggers there, yes. But they said these cuts are supposed to be coming as I said, Tesla, some of the tech industries. And they even said within that report, like, dang, we were just talking days ago, really, about, wow, this is great. Workers' market, and people are demanding higher wages, and they got all these shortages and all this. Hey, things change. That is the system of white supremacy racism. They can change things when they want to. Great illustration of why it is always good, even in the best of times. Even if that's you that I talked about at the beginning, you're getting paid astronomical figure. Right up there close to LeBron James, about to be an active billionaire. Great. Frugal. This is not the time to go out and, waste money and party and every day long and have the biggest July 4th bash you can think of. No. Things can change quickly. And racists will be the ones who make those changes frequently, and most of the time they're not going to be to our benefit. Let's see. We're not going to be in the frothier position. I was really taken aback because really the airline industry, that might be another one of those frothier industries. They just had all those reports talking about how that is white male exclusive in this part of the world, and many others. Super white male. Now they have programs to attract women. don't want black males in these frothy environments. But when I heard that, that was the first thing I thought when I heard those reports, and they were talking about pilots, and it was pilots really that they were focused on going on strike. And I was like, okay, so we're talking about lots of white dudes. However, some of the reports talking about these pilot strikes, they did have airline stewardesses there, and even some of them were black females, non-white females, and they were out protesting as well. So I don't know, if the rescheduling and when they furloughed staff with COVID-19 and now the flights are picking back up and what have you for the holidays and summer travel and all the rest of it, I don't know if they're being impacted as well. It wouldn't surprise me, but it was a lot of things that I thought of. And hearing that report, more than anything, hey, if you got, these are white people, suspected racists who are, I guess they said he emphasized they didn't go on strike, but at least they're having some sort of dispute about their labor conditions. Hey, safety. I think a big part of that report, you had the white pilot saying, hey, we've been working all this overtime. This is way more than we worked before. This is not sustainable. Like, if this is going to be a short period of time to just get through a tough spot until they hire more people and all the rest of it, but this has been indefinite. We've been doing this for a really long time. No end in sight. This is not sustainable or healthy or safe. Very important, and many white people in workplace situations, and even many non-white people, will do the exact same thing. And I would say especially with non-white workers, like, oh man, safety, whatever, regulations and all the rest of it, like, make as much money as possible, and if it compromises the health and well-being of some non-white people in the process, oh well, long as I'm making money, big deal. If you don't like it, quit, I'll hire someone else. That type of philosophy. You have to be same way with those pilots saying, hey, this is enough. Something has got to be done about all this. Incidentally, I did take that kind of I had been saying before, like, it might not be a good time to travel, and then it seemed like things were, at least restrictions and things were easing and more people were going out and about. Wow, does not sound like this is the best July 4th weekend to be in the air. Maybe do as they advise, see if you can use that free waiver or fee waiver so that you can reschedule your flight, maybe leave early or whatever you need to do. Man, I would not be looking forward. In fact, before we went live, I saw a report. They said, I think it was some airlines, they were offering $10,000 if you walk off of a plane. That's how, what can I say? That's how ridiculous the scheduling has been, how many problems that they've got. And we haven't even got to the 4th yet. That's Monday. If it's this bad out here, like, oh my goodness, $10,000 to walk off of a plane. Craziness. If you have offspring, if they're doing any traveling, I think our young scholar in the Bay Area, I said, hey, if you want to go to Germany, go now, because they did say that the cheap flights and what have you, might be able to find one. Whew, maybe not this weekend. And do lots of research. Talk to your children if they're going to be doing any flying. If any craziness happens, already have that prepared, what you want them to do. Get in contact with you, reschedule, just stay an extra day, get an Airbnb for a day or whatever, but talk to them if they're going to do their, young and got to get out and make up for all that lost time. Whew. Craziness abounds. Let's see. I mentioned the portion about the stewardess. Yeah. Or excuse me, about the Juneteenth in May. I will say really quick since I mentioned Juneteenth, July 4th is Monday. I have worked on jobs where they did like some kind of, I don't even know what you want to call it, like summer July 4th celebration or kind of summer type celebration. All the same rules would apply if you have a job and they do that sort of thing. Like they want to have like a July 4th barbecue or whatever. Sobriety. That would be number one. If they, somebody brings a cooler and they want some brews or wine or whatever. Sober. And these events, I've been to some where they did these during work hours. So, I mean, hey, we're on the clock. Fine, I didn't want to be doing any work anyway. I'm still not eating anything. I would know about this in advance and bring my own food, bring my own water, and then if it's one of those things where you can leave after a certain point, I'm staying 30 minutes and we're out. No need to lollygag all day. I'll be very mindful. People a lot of times will use these type of events, white co-workers and even some non-white co-workers, to pry. Now we're not in the office space. They'll say something, oh, we can let our hair down, use that metaphor. So then they can ask you a bunch of wacky questions about your personal life and sex life and all this other nonsense. I would already have that in mind and know you're just telling, oh, I don't want to talk about that. I don't talk about dating or anything. And or where you are, this is what information I'm willing to share. This is what information I'm not willing to share. And this is how I'm going to get out of these type of questions. If they ask me something like, oh, are you dating anyone? Like, oh, I'm just doing me right now. Are you seeing anybody? Or I might even pivot off of that subject completely. Got any plans for the summer? Even pivot back to the workplace. Now that's even better. Like, I'm not even interested because they answer that and then expect you to do the same. I might pivot them right back to the office or something very neutral. Because I don't really want to hear about their personal life either. I'm not going to sit up here and talk me to death about your little children, Jeffrey Dahmer in training. No, thank you. Anywho, number 720-716-7300, the code 564943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. I found it so easy. I will share a little bit. I forgot I bookmarked it. So it's Tesla hit with another lawsuit alleging racism and harassment at its Fremont plant. I've been there, Bay Area. Now this is from San Francisco Chronicle, so of course, but Bay Area, I've been there. The BART goes right to Fremont. Electric car maker Tesla was sued again Thursday, this time by a group of current and former African-American workers at its Fremont factory who say they were subject to racist graffiti, slurs, and harassment. They said the company and managers knew about it, but did nothing to stop it. The complaints list more than a dozen current and former Tesla workers, but also lists dozens of Tesla employees as defendants. It was not immediately clear if any of the employees had signed mandatory arbitration agreements, which Tesla has used in the past, or how that could affect the ability to bring the case in state court. The plaintiffs have been subjected to offensive racist statements and offensive racist behavior and discipline by colleagues, leads, supervisors, managers, and or human resources personnel on a daily basis, the suit said. Tesla, which is owned by Elon Musk, did not immediately respond to an emailed request for comment and has not for more than a year, amid reports its public relations and press department was dismantled last year. And we will stop there. Oh, wait a minute. Just give it a little bit. Jasmine Wilson, the first named plaintiff in the suit filed Thursday, worked as a quality inspector at the plant from August 2021 until March 2022. During that time, she was the target of racial epithets and catcalling from leads, supervisors, and managers, many of whom assumed she was a production associate because she was African American and admonished her for not doing that job and wearing the uniform for that role, according to the filing. Jeez. She was also subjected to sexualized comments about her body by a production associate identified as Lavelle Doe, who was joined by two others identified as Victor Doe and Nora Doe. Yikes, Nora sounds like a female name. So was females and males making these sexualized comments? Dang. When Wilson reported the incidents, Human Resources was skeptical of her claims and a promised investigation never materialized, the suit said. It's hard to imagine a workplace culture that these hard-working people had to endure day after day, having to live through racist comments and abusive behavior, said plaintiff's attorney Mike Arias. Hearing story after story of employees being subjected to this level of disgusting and threatening behavior and language is still almost unbelievable. Racial slurs, including the N-word, were also scrawled on Tesla restroom walls, along with swastikas and KKK, which attorneys said were left up for months at a time without the company taking them down or addressing the issue. Well, it goes quite a bit of even being black people being forced to work more grueling shifts. It gives quite a bit of detail. What I would say is, number one, again, you have to talk to your offspring and or make sure you yourself study, aware of racism, white supremacy. If your child and or you are taking a job, this is what I've said before, I would want to research that organization. If you're going to go and work at Tesla, it would be great. Look, you research like, oh, wow, they've had lots of reports of this sort of activity before. I would want to know all about that. Might even ask about that at some point to see if it happened at this location, or even if it happened at another location. People aware of this happened in the company, and did they take steps to remedy this to make sure that this sort of problem doesn't recur? Legitimate, I think, right? You could ask that, I think. Research. I would research where you work at, and then all of the sexualized, document oh my gosh. Another plaintiff, Terry Mitchell, was terminated after about a month of work during which she and other African American employees were called blackies and darkies, in addition to the N-word. All of that. Why are you calling me blackie? Why are you calling me darkie? What do you do with darkies? Do you reference anyone else here by something other than their name? And just see. Document all of that. When they're talking about KKK being up on the walls, I would have a newspaper or whatever where you can date stamp that this has been up, this has been reported, nothing's been done about this. All of that. When they talk about this is the sort of culture that it seemed managers, people knew about these things. Darkies, blackies, KKK, all of it. Knew about all of this. Black people giving more grueling work. Nothing was done. White people are not ignorant about any of this. This is just, what it means to be white. This is our pleasure. Get to come in and harass the black people. We expect that she is not going to be in one of the frothier positions. She's supposed to be one of these low-level folks, That's the uniform that you're supposed to have on. That's what we think of you, and or some sort of whore. We can call you all these names. Now, incidentally, if we're, the darkies and the blackies and ignorant and dumb and all the rest, why all this sexualization? Why are you looking me all up and down, and apparently the males and females? Why is that? Anywho, I would not be surprised about any of that. That's the thing. Expecting this, and then even that, if they're doing any catcalling and go shake it and all of that, even now that's one I wouldn't even address with racism. That's just, hey, exactly what I just said. It's me too now. We're going to do all this about Deshaun Watson. That should be one easy. Immediately. What did you just say? Write that down. Date, time, any folks that they want to witness, notarize what was said, catcalling, and boom, 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 shake those hips or whatever it is. Boom, boom, boom. And then just that, is this acceptable to say in the workplace? Is this how we're supposed to talk to one another? Put everything in the form of a question? I would speak with HR because this has nothing to do with racism. I found that problem solving that is not connected to racism, white supremacy often can be much, more efficient in getting things done. And even like I've said before, some of this I suggest being preemptive. When you start the job, ask in orientation about what's to be done if someone makes sexually inappropriate remarks, so you already know what the protocol is. That also sends a message. We talk about that too. Sometimes there's nothing you can do. This young lady may have been doing everything perfect in terms of codification. Racists are going to be racist. Dogs bark. That happens. Try to do as much as you can preemptively, and then if they still do what they do, document, report, serious. Everything is about serious, and in my view, have to say something. That's one of those you have to nip in the bud. My man Walter Beach III said, cut it at the knees. Cleveland Browns, again, cut it at the knees, because that sort of thing tends to escalate, especially if you got like a mob, women, males, females, all of them participating in it. Escalate in terms of they start maybe today they start with, hey, ooh, and they whistling and shaking and catcalling and all the rest of it. Then we get to Monday, August, October. Now we drew a little petting, feeling, all the rest of it. And we've had people who've called in who talked about that. Jeffrey, Don, all of that. We talked about that. Escalation. It's not just going to stay there. Like, let's see how much we can get away with. Like, oh, we did a little that and they didn't say anything. Oh, did a little that and they didn't say. Okay. And they just go and go and go. Cut it at the knees. As soon as they come the first time, show them you are totally serious. I'm not just going to sit here and have you all bully me, and I'm not going to do anything to try to stop it. Weak position that I'm in. Anywho, Tesla, man, it's been all year long. So the number is 720-716-7300. The code 564-943#. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. First few folks who dialed in with a hand up line should be open. Proceed.
Can I be heard? Oh, go ahead.
Heard.
Can I be heard?
Yes, ma'am. Let's get our caller 5196.
Yes. Hi, Gus. Hi, Cal's listeners. This is Miss C. I just wanted to respond to the comment that you made about like white businesses don't really need our sympathy or help because they're going to galvanize their support base, and white people are going to write reviews after reviews after reviews to support their business. So I have an example of that happened a couple months ago in May. So there's a local event venue, and it's white owned, but I think they're trying to say like they're Hispanic, but and they collaborate with like people of color, non-white people, black people, and a lot of my colleagues, we formed like a coalition of black-owned businesses, which is an interesting term, but they were trying to get me to connect with this particular venue and, rub shoulders or get close to them, get to know them, get in with them, so I could be like a preferred vendor and all that. But I just never pursued it. I was just like, I'm not really interested in that. So I recently discovered one of their posts where they had a quinceañera event at their venue in May, and that's like in the Latin community, a rites of passage where a young girl, she transitions from girlhood into womanhood. And they shared that the quinceañera, it was supposed to be like 130 people at their venue, and different venues have like a maximum capacity. They drew up a contract for 130 people, but the owners claimed that 250 people, including a lot of teenagers, showed up to the event. So instead of sending out invitations and getting RSVP so you could get accurate number count the week of the event, the quinceañera she sent out an open invitation. So the venue had to hire extra security. There was a lot of issues, like kids were smoking in the restroom, there was gum all over the floor, and then they reported some other things, breach of contract. The owners of the venue told the mother of the quinceañera that they were going to keep the deposit, and I don't know, it could be a white Hispanic or a non-white Hispanic, who knows? But this mother, she sent out a group text and made sure that the people would would go to the business's Google page and leave like 1-star reviews. So before this particular event, this venue was probably at, like 20 reviews on Google, which is, decent. It is a newer business and all that kind of stuff. But after they sent out a notice to the community, they ended up with 84 5-star reviews that were left in 2 days. 2 days after sending out the call for help. So the venue was also able to remove all of the 1-star reviews except for 4 of them. So instead of being at 3.2 with the 1-star reviews, they're back to 4.9. And I say that just to reinforce what Gus has said, is these businesses, they don't need our help. They don't need our sympathy. They're going to get the financial support, the physical support. People are going to go out of their way to give them resources, whether it be their time, their money, their presence, and if it's a non-white business, you get 1-star review, you ask your clients to help you, it's not going to happen. So with that, I will end my call.
Well, the Voltron effect, white people generally are extraordinary at rallying support and getting folks, hey, we are not racist, we are not bad folks, man, come support us, give us a 5-star review, man. Like, they are amazing. And I've seen that as well, like going the other way, not just being able to use that, like, hey, they help us out, leave us a review, that sort of thing. They're trying to mess us over, or these folks in Maine, like, they messed us over, we didn't put the sign up. Where if they want to attack a non-white business, they can do the same thing, rally all these people that leave their 1-star review and, count Gus, dirty, that sort of thing. Like, that is the strength of the system we are trying to defeat. Let's see. Other folks who dialed in with a hand up, I heard, I think it was several ladies at the same time. Let's see.
Gus, can I go next? Because I'm at an event and it's loud noise and I'm making a wait so I can do my workplace racism do nails.
Let's hear it.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, real quick. So, oh dear, I hate this noise. School district, summer school, second week. I'm not being mean to people. I'm not arguing with people, but I expect respect. So, I remember the caller stating that I was maybe being a little argumentative. I'm not. I'm just not going to let you speak to me any kind of way, and sometimes I have to elevate my voice to be heard because you're already yelling at me and I want to be heard. So this week, Filipino teacher, Filipino worker like me, and a white teacher's assistant. So they made a schedule for us to change this little boy on a Hoyer lift that I've never used. I'm not even used to all this stuff. The lady's trying to, the Filipino teacher is trying to get us to feed this girl, I think she has cerebral palsy, with a straw, like Capri Sun straw. Then she went to a McDonald's straw. Then they got the boba straw instead of waiting until the school year starts when they get her straw that they want you to use. And these are all future goals, but she wants them done now. This is a teacher. She's not listening to anything we're saying. You guys should shut up and do what you're told. So she created this schedule for who's going to change what. So the white lady, conveniently, the one who's familiar with the boy who needs the Hoyer lift, she only wants to do it twice a week. And then she'll help change the easy one, which is the one with cerebral palsy. She'll do that 3 days a week. But the other lady that's just like me, she has 5 days a week changing the boy in the Hoyer lift. She's only done it a few times with the white lady. And she also has to change the other girl, I think, 3 days a week with the white lady as well. So she's telling the Filipino teacher she doesn't think it's fair that she's changing the hardest one 5 days a week, and she's not as familiar with the system versus the white lady. And so they're getting into an argument. So I walk in the middle of it. I don't even know what's going on. I'm just trying to rush the kids in. So when the kids get in, she's I don't know what she was saying, but I'm ignoring her because she's not talking to me. She's talking to the Filipino person like me. So she's saying, yeah, you guys get the schedule together. You guys get the schedule together. I got the schedule right here. You got the schedule. Get the schedule. Hey, you. Talking about me. And I was like, hey, how you doing? What? Hey, how you doing? I'm fine. Anyway, so we got the schedule right here. You got to do this and do this and do this and do this on the schedule. So I said, okay, that's fine. It's not fine. And she's just hollering and screaming at me. I'm like, what the hell's wrong with you? It's not fine. She's got a problem with it. I'm like, well, hell, look, I don't care. I have to take my mask off. I said, look, I don't care what the board says. I'm not tripping because I'm on the clock in real life, so I don't really, whatever I'm doing on the clock, it doesn't matter because I'm on the clock. So you need me to change clothes, I'll change them. I'm not tripping because I still get paid if I change them or not. So I just don't know how. I just need help because I don't Hoyer lift. No training. Just get in there and do all this stuff. So the lady is yelling and screaming at me, so I had to elevate my voice a bit so I could be heard. Now the white lady want to chime in saying whatever she's saying. She always got something to say like she's a heckler. She always had to have something to say. Nobody's even talking to you. So she's telling the white lady, okay, yeah, you two, you guys get the schedule together. What schedule? You already have a schedule here. What do you want? You created the schedule already. So the white lady saying whatever she's saying. And so I said, well, look, Filipino teacher, you yelling is not solving any problems. You don't have to yell. Oh, well, I'm not yelling. Am I yelling, Mrs. White Lady? The white lady said, no, you're not. I'm like, it's cool, it's cool. So I just stopped talking right there. And then her tone went from a 4, the teacher, to a 2 instantly. No more yelling, no more none of that. Yesterday, the day before, her tone just completely dropped because she knows she was yelling. She knows she was out of order. So now the white lady want to ride on the bandwagon. So she's already a jerk, already rude, already discourteous, already wants to take all the credit. She wants to be the one doing everything. So yesterday, white lady, now the Filipino lady that's like me, she's already going to quit on Friday. That's what she said. That's how stressful it is. So, which is today. Well, she quit today. Her last day was today. So anyway, I come in yesterday. I didn't work with the guy that runs around with the scissors or the little guy. I didn't work with him, the one I've been working with, because they're trying to show us. So she took the little girl that the other girl like me was dealing with. She took her away, gave her to the white lady, and they had the white lady dealing with basically all the kids, and we just get in where we fit in. No big deal, because I still get paid. If she wants to take it all, do everything. So, but the little boy that I work with, he didn't do any work because I didn't work with him. So they're saying when we came back from changing the boy that needs the Hoyer lift, he was shredding paper or anything, because he then got up and started, whatever he does. So they couldn't calm him down, so they gave him a paper shredder job, and that only lasted for so long. So anyway, the next day, okay, so what was he doing yesterday? Can you help him with his work? So the white lady, she wants to yell over. So no, I just want her to help with the work. This is the Filipino teacher talking to me. And so I said, okay, so what was he doing yesterday? He was this the white lady yelling at us like, ma'am, no, you're being argumentative. I said, ma'am, what are you talking about? No, you just be quiet. The only thing you say is yes and okay. That's all you say. You don't say anything else. You just speak. And she's moving her hand. You know how you do the yep with your hands, or maybe a puppet. She's yelling it experience. So every time I was just like, I don't know. All I'm asking is, what did he do? Okay, you just be quiet. And you just say, okay, you're being argumentative. And so I said, ma'am, goodness. My goodness. So then the teacher, she's looking crazy. So in the midst of this trauma, I requested a supervision meeting with the behavioralist. So she said, okay, we could do this tomorrow and every week. So yesterday was a meeting. So thereafter, I'm with the white lady to change the little girl, and the one who looked like she had cerebral palsy. I'm with her to change, so now she has to come find me to change the little girl. Then she could have already did it before lunch, but she didn't want to. And I mean the kids' lunch, because I go out with the other lady, the one in the wheelchair. He gets fed or however, and then the other kids, I watch the other kids and make sure the boy doesn't run off. So now she comes get me, so I have the key. I'm the only one that brought my key. So I was like, yeah, I have my key. I don't leave. Why would I have the key and I don't have it with me? So the little girl's trying to get in. I said, hold on, let me get my key. Oh, wait. Your words. Less words. So don't talk so much. Less words. You know how with autism, you know how like on Charlie Brown, the noise and the talking, so you can't talk. So don't talk. Just use as less words as possible talking to them because they can't take it. So just don't talk. But now, mind you, every time somebody talks to me, Miss So-and-so, hey, no, don't talk to her, talk to me. This is the energy. Hey, focus on this. Don't talk to her. So she doesn't want anybody talking to me. So I told the behavioralist when I got off work, me and the other girl, she said, well, can I walk with you? Because I want to let her know this is my last day is tomorrow. And so we all went together. And then so when the lady was telling her that, she's like, what's going on? She was like, I don't want to talk about it, but that's my last day is tomorrow. It's too stressful here. So then I was talking to the behavioralist, and I was just telling her everything that we were enduring and everything that I had been sharing, and how she's trying to have us do physical therapy with the boy in the wheelchair, and the physical therapist had to come this week and say they can't do anything. That's just stuff that we want to do. Well, why is it in the paperwork? So she has the white lady. Okay, you killed her, keep her working with this straw. What straw? You mean the straw, the fast food straw? No, that's not what they meant. But whatever, you guys do whatever you do. So the supervisor told me to take off. She said, take off, come back on Tuesday. You don't got to deal with that. I'll be in there on Wednesday. I'm going to report all of this to the principal. I have to. I know who you're talking about. I know the white lady. She's crazy. She's always talking. I don't know who she thinks she is, telling you can't do your job. And don't worry about it. She's like, and if you want to quit, you could do that too. It's up to you. We'll deal with it on Tuesday. So as far as when I come back, but I took off today. I'm here at this thing. I didn't know I was going to do nails until 30 minutes ago. So I'm here at this West Oakland Town Night event. Attack. And it's so noisy in there. So thank you for taking my call. I'm going to get out and do these nails. I'm sure they're already done. So I'm going to see what they have me doing in here. And thank you for taking my call, Des. I'm going to mute my line. And if I pop back in or something, just mute me. And it's not on purpose. And thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Wow. Bay Area. Right on. Man, that is crazy. I don't even... Pardon for saying crazy. Let's be specific. I underlined it. No training. Asking these non-white employees who have not been trained to work with a student who has special needs, he's in his chair, what have you, know that this is all over the world. Standard operating procedure. I suspect you probably get quite a bit more money. If you got to do all this extra training and special needs, and he's got a special chair and a lift and all of this, like, man, can I get get that gas card? Something. Come on. And that's why I said, like, all of it, exactly what she kept saying. I haven't been trained for this. We haven't been trained for this. This is not safe for this young scholar. This is not safe for us. You already know this. We shouldn't have to be the ones reminding you of this. You're probably not reminding them. This is just racism, white supremacy. I said that already. I said that was why I played that whole clip with the pilots, even though I know that's probably just white dudes. But them recognizing, like, this is not safe. This is a problem. Same thing. We, victims of white supremacy, have to be super vigilant. Have I been trained to carry out this task in a safe manner? Frequently, the answer will be no. Just point that. And again, it's not like they don't know this. I'm sure she's very aware that these niggers haven't been trained to do this at all. Whatever. And then somebody gets in trouble. It'll be you. Anyway, so what part of what I was saying is crazy. Not the no training. That's not crazy. That's standard. All of this yelling about the schedule. These are children with special needs. They should have like the most patient instructors. Quiet, gentle voice, very calming, mild tone. That's what I would expect. Special need. Oh, you're gonna get over there right now. Don't you talk. You blew it. You blew it. You blew it, son. I mean, what in the... Gym coaches don't even talk like that anymore. Like, what in the world? Now, again, this is Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. You play around with sex. This just sounds wonderful for a child. Best childhood memories ever. And the vindictiveness, you hear how much of that, this seems to be repeated, where there are white instructors who sit around and talk bad about Bay Area mom, and it seems like probably some of the other non-white staff members sit around and talk bad about them in front of the students, in front of other staff, get an attitude because maybe this person is trying to be competent, here on time, cares about the students, trying to do things to be helpful for the students. The students respond. I got an attitude. They don't respond to me and my yelling. You blew it, son. They don't respond to me. They respond to her old nigga. Don't talk to her. Don't talk to her. Matter of fact, you be quiet. Don't say anything. Don't say anything. Don't, like, what is that? I thought I was here to help. That's what I do. I'm here to help. Don't say a word. Disgusted with you. Students all smiling and bonding with her. Don't talk to her. Like, I've never even heard that. How do you have... I'm trained. I've sat in the classroom. I'm hired. I'm supposed to be here to them. Don't say anything? Wow. You want me to go sit in the corner with the dunce cap on? Should I do that? Man, the vindictive. That's another reason, incidentally. Get that master's, because you don't want to be in the... Well, hey, we don't want to be in the classroom. Superintendent track. And you can help get that type of race soldier out of the classroom. That's a disgrace. If you're talking to the staff that way, my gosh, I know how you feel about the black students. Jeez. She says, and then the other staff, I guess similar position, all this yelling and abuse. She's forgetting. I'm quitting Friday. I guess today. For today is my last day. And the summer session just started. Like, it's July 1st. Like, it's not like she hung in there for a month or 3 weeks or something. Like, I am gonna give this a try. But she hung in for literally a couple of days. Like, I'm good. Like, what in the world? That is a horrible indictment of, whatever classroom she was in, or maybe even the whole school, but at minimum, the classroom and whoever the white teacher that she had to work with, I'm out of here in a few days, bailing on the students and everything. What sort of example does that set for the students? Don't drop out of school. We just had the teacher. She quit in 2 to 3 days. Well, that's, what can man, making our job harder here in many ways. And now that right there, everything that she shared, I should be paid way more. When she told us about even signing up to do all this, and they wanted to hem and haw, and, oh, I don't know if we can pay that much, and, oh, I don't know, we'll have to ask, and, oh, that's way out of the salary range that we have for this position. Like, forget, you can't even get people. You're running around here at the last minute, literally, trying to fill voids in your staff. And have staff employees quitting the first week. I definitely need to get, some extra nickels. Like, do not be shortchanging me at all. Again, the value of black education, non-white students. Let's see. I do see the value. I'll put it that way. I see the value of the sort of mentality, hey, I'm here, I'm going to be paid regardless, so I'm not going to get an attitude. You want us to do, rework the schedule? You want us to clean out the cubbies? You want me to help some of them do their reading? You want me to sit with the little child who's sleepy or whatever? Hey, I'm on the clock. Whatever. I get paid regardless. I see the value of that because, hey, we've seen some of these racists, some of their sadism is they love the disruption. They don't want things to be organized, set so that the students have a routine, have expectations about what's going to happen on a daily basis. They don't even want the staff to do that. Start developing a rapport and they're bonding with, no. Let's disrupt that totally. So I see the value in not, having attachments. That's part of why I say, hey, it's not my desk. It's not even my schedule. You let me know what we're going to do. I'm going to get paid regardless, and let's get to it. I also see the value as well. I think she had said that before. And hey, they do all this yelling. Since it seems to be so much of it, I guess you would have to develop a code. They're so uncouth, savage. And hey, they're on all the yelling. I'm not going to out yell you. I might even get quiet there, not say anything. Let them do all this. And they just ask, why are you yelling? Yelling? I'm not yelling. She asked the wife, am I yelling? Of course not. You're not yelling. That nigger's lied. She said, but she changed her tone from that point on. All right. For the rest of the day. Like, well, you're going to get over there right now. That can be a question. Maybe that's one we can think about. The other people that they work with, really toxic, savage coworkers who yell and scream and are totally unprofessional. You don't out yell them. Don't say anything at all. Then when they want you to speak, you can ask, why are you yelling? Calmly too. Like, I'm cute. Maybe, there's a hearing problem maybe. I don't know. Let's see. Let's see. Maybe we'll get a good explanation. Maybe they'll do the same thing, say that they're not yelling, and then lower their volume by about 5 octaves, which is great. No need for us to yell. Much obliged. Bay Area master's degree. See if you can minimize some of the contact with these sort of tacky race soldiers, and even she said the Filipina instructor who was, yelling and all the rest of it. Like, I'd want to minimize contact with as much craziness as possible and increase my compensation for all of this. So get that master's after you have fun with the nails. Context of White Supremacy. Let me see if I can get an email really quick, and then we'll nab our other callers. One of the folks who wrote in with an email Boom. Okay. Female victim of racism. She has a white female supervisor, and then she has a non-white female subordinate, black female so-called. She writes in, COVID rates are rising where I live. I went into the office for one day this week and so received an email notification from HR a few days later informing me that someone tested positive on the floor I was, although not sitting in my location. I wasn't in the office for the whole day and wore a mask. Bravo. So not overly concerned, although public transport was overcrowded, so one reason for the increase in the infection rate. I usually try to do a later start to avoid this, but had to be in the office early that day. They talked about that with the flights, to try to leave earlier, where it's less crowded. In some places, now I don't know what that is. Here, early would have to be like before 6 a.m. in some parts, like San Francisco. Like, man, it's even worse there. I think early would have to be like before 5 a.m. For the Bay Area. Jesus. Continuing, I mentioned last week that non-white black female who allegedly reports to me said that her former racist manager thinks she's bubbly, whatever that means. I have a feeling the racist suspect male doesn't think very much of the non-white black female, and I doubt he would describe her as bubbly. I suspect it's much more contemptuous if he thinks anything at all. That's the vibe I get from him about all non-white people. The non-white black female told me once that she is quite giggly, so I think it's part of the persona she has acquired during the time she has worked for the organization. Incidentally, I've seen like a lot of that, where non-white people just giggle and laugh, and that's like, as she said, like the persona that we will take on, because that'll be like what we think is our defense mechanism from white people. If I can just keep them laughing, keep them entertained, I'm not upset, I'm not angry, I'm smiling and laughing and giggling and just giggle about everything. Now, I mean, that doesn't mean that you never, have to laugh at all in the workplace, but it should not be, oh, could you turn on the lights? Oh, could you turn it back off? Oh, it's warm. I mean, none of that is funny. Why do you have to laugh for all of that? And I think that's when you don't understand racism, white supremacy, but you understand you're in a dangerous situation, that white people can do a lot of harm. They're way more powerful than I am. So what I'll try to do, stay in their good graces. I'm laughing. I'll keep them laughing. I'm not angry. Hopefully they aren't angry, and we'll just stay laughing and having a grand old time. That is not bubbly. Like I said, if anything, I would want people, what's the word that you are going to use? If you're going to use one word to describe Gus, and you're talking to my colleagues that I work with, white people, or even non-white people, I would want them to say serious, competent, professional. Any of those three is exponentially better than bubbly, whatever that means. Person who is the CEO of the company gets described as serious, competent, professional. Unless you're trying to be the janitor or what have you, then yes, you want to be bubbly. We're working at the, the Bunny Ranch? Continuing. This week, another of her former managers died, white male. She was apparently very affected by this, so much so that Carrie had to give her a few hours out to compose herself. I was on leave that day. This non-white black female was still coming to terms with the news the following day, arranging lunches with former colleagues to console each other. My racist manager also brought the matter of the non-white female's demeanor due to the death of her former manager. Yes, she is still meeting with the non-white female, even though these meetings were due to end months ago. Apparently, the deceased racist suspect male would tell the non-white female to, oh man, that's 2 days in a row, the most potty mouth program ever. Apparently, the deceased racist suspect male would tell the non-white female to fuck off when joking around. She thinks this was a demonstration of their strong relationship. I do not believe she is suggesting anything sexual in any of her relationships with the various racist suspects. Personally, I just think they do not take her seriously, but she is not understanding this. So sad. This reminded me, Mr. Fuller, where he says many of us don't see what we're looking at, fail to see what we're looking at. Many of us look but don't see what we're looking at. That's it. Anyway, we basically accept anything. If they're not calling us Negra, wow, this is the greatest, coolest, well-meaningest white person ever. And you could be talking to Peyton Gendron. He is so cool. I'm just going to give him my keys. You go get yourself a snack. Wow. He just told me to F off, but he's just messing. That's just how we mess around. He's just joking around. That Ted is just a funny guy. I mean, the same thing I just said before. You put that with turn the light on. F off. What's the punchline? Just being rude and nasty and surly to somebody, not, oh, great to see you, and you did a great job on that report this morning. Fantastic. I always enjoy working with you. You're so competent and punctual. Always great. That would be something, wow, that Ted is no. I know he's my dude because he always tells me to F off when he's messing around. I know he's having a great day when he tells me to F off. Black self-respect annihilated. And even that same thing I said yesterday, even a phrase like that, like, no, we don't see you as serious, and like, oh, I hope there's no, petting and feeling, because I mean, if we don't see you as serious, hey, same thing that I said before, today it's this, tomorrow, who knows? See how much, we can get away with, as they say. Continuing, I've come to realize she needs a lot of attention and is happy to spend her days gossiping about people and her personal affairs. She lacks discretion. I know far too much about her family situation and her health, even if I am her manager. Her doctor has advised her several times to lose weight, which she does not appear to be taking seriously enough. Her blood pressure keeps fluctuating, so her doctor gave her a blood pressure device to monitor her for 24 hours. It's not hypertension, but she will let me know more next week. I'd rather not have all that detail, but I'm sure there will be some kind of complaint if I don't show interest. That is absurd. Like, I don't care if this is your black brother and all that. Man, it would have to be like caller in Florida who works with his mom or something like that. Like, are you serious? TMI. I'm not your does your mom know all these details? Like, for real. Why are you telling me all of this? You don't have to say all that, but I mean, nobody should be going into this much detail with somebody that you work. I wouldn't care if you've been working together for 20 years. That is absurd. Jeez. Let's see. And incidentally, that Racism, white supremacy. So many of us victims not eating correctly, the stress of racism, white supremacy, so many different, not resting correctly, so many different factors. We end up being stressed and having either way too much weight or even being underweight. Widespread problem. Take advantage, get outside, enjoy some of the warm weather this summer, get that water, get some fresh fruit. Again, go to the farmer's market, get some fresh fruits, put that soda pop down. Continuing. The caller from Louisiana suggested the non-white female and Carrie are both manipulative, and I agree 100%. I think they find many reasons to avoid doing any real work. Carrie is even dumber, and I feel I should be offended by the fact she is getting paid the same wage as me. This week, she arranged a meeting for the two of us to introduce ourselves to a new member of the team. I was so irritated, as I'm capable of arranging my own meetings. I'm sure she was using me as a shield. On introducing herself, she stated that she joined the team at the beginning of June. I was so shocked. I stepped off code and corrected her, letting her know she joined the team at the beginning of April. She then said her brain is a bit woolly and blamed it on menopause. I strongly believe she was no clearer at the age of 25. How do you get that wrong? Her brain is a bit woolly. Those woolly-minded people. I've also been monitoring my manager's use of emojis and grammar, which is very revealing. She likes to correct me and give the impression she's joking, using the emoji of someone sticking out their tongue. Once I made the mistake of typing the non-white female's name using a lowercase letter for the first letter in the team chat. Within minutes, my manager had typed a message to me spelling my name incorrectly using a lowercase letter for my first name. This was back in March or April. She consistently spells my name in this way even when typing multiple people's names correctly in the same correspondence. I find it fascinating. Thanks for the platform. Now we had some listeners who said that they were interested in studying this, the way that white people use memes, emojis, and things of that nature to convey racism, and especially in a workplace setting. Lots of that sort of thing, even right here, and even the use of these chats, because I think that's become more popular, especially over the last 2 years. But yeah, that kind of passive-aggressive emoji use, and then deliberately misspelling your name. Couldn't just be a misclick or what have you. She immediately, oh no, you didn't do her name correctly, like she cares about this, black female that much. That is fascinating on so many points. Wow. Even the correction I was looking at, the white woman saying that she started at the beginning of June, and she actually started at the beginning of April. I don't know if she's that lazy and all. Maybe she wants to give the impression that she's only been there a few days, so she's still kind of learning and figuring things out. And then woolly-minded. I don't know if that was in the word guide either, but I recommend that we not use it, and I would write that one down anytime someone uses such a curious phrase around you. Woolly-minded. Say, Jesus had hair like wool. She means she was Jesus, man? Yeah. Anyway, 720-716-7300, code 564-943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate.
Can I be heard?
Z's mom? Yes, ma'am.
Hi. Greetings. So I wanted to give some updates and also talk about a couple of new things that have been occurring. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was, so I've been applying for more jobs in my field, and I got to the third interview, and this job is across the country. So they're going to fly me in and, pay for my flight and whatnot. So on June 20th, I was in contact with the person from HR about the flight information, and I gave her the dates that I would be available because I'm still teaching summer school. So I did not hear back from her, even though I emailed her. I think I emailed her 2 times. And I didn't hear back from her until June 28th. My actually June 27th. My interview is on June 29th, and I would be flying in on the 28th. So she hadn't given me any flight information until June 27th, and she gave me only 2 options. She said you can fly out on the 28th at 8:30 a.m. or 9:40 a.m. Those were the only 2 options. Mind you, I'm still teaching summer school, and it was actually my last day because I had taken the other 2 days off to do this interview. So I called her and I told her I don't feel comfortable taking another day off. I have an obligation to my students and mostly to my students because they can find another person to substitute teach for me. But I want to close out, have a last day with them, and also just clean up because it's not my classroom and whatnot. And so there was a back and forth for a while, and I had to tell her, can I talk to I'm going to forward this email to the other HR person who is in charge of my actual interview day to reschedule my interview. So I finally got in touch with that person the next day. So I still don't know what's going on because I'm not sure if I still have an interview or not. So I had to actually reach out to the person again because they didn't respond to my first email. They responded to me text messaging them because I didn't want to call because I just wanted it documented that I was not the reason why the interview changed. The interview changed because I was not given enough preparation for my flight. And so I finally got in contact with the second HR person, and they did move my flight to next week, which is better because that was kind of a stressful situation. But the reason why the person didn't contact me for 9 days was because they were on vacation. I don't know why they didn't give my information to someone else so that they could work on it while they were on vacation, or tell me that they were going to be on vacation, or even have, most people have a forwarding so that when you email them while they're on vacation, it says, I'm on vacation, I'll be back this day. I wasn't given any of that, so I didn't know why I hadn't been responded to in 9 days. So it's been very interesting, and it tells me a lot already about the company, and it's all things that I'm just taking mental notes of. And then the second thing that I wanted to bring up was that I did finish summer school, so I was able to get a new room because I don't know if you remember, but I had roaches in my room, and every morning I was finding new dead roaches. And then I just went up to the admin person. Her name is Selena, And I told her, I didn't even tell her anything. I just told her, can I have a new room? Because there are too many roaches in my room. She was pretty sympathetic, and she went to the other admin person who was not, and who kept kind of giving me the runaround, or I don't want to use that term, who kept trying to evade my request. She was consistently saying, oh, well, we don't really have any rooms. I'm not sure. And this is summer school, so there's about maybe 50 kids, 50 students. On a regular school, there's probably 300 to 400 students. So there's most likely empty rooms. And I just kind of stood there, and I didn't really respond or say much. I just looked at them, talked to each other, knowing that there's rooms, waiting for someone to just be honest that, there's an available room for me. Eventually, they had to call the custodian and ask the custodian, are there any available rooms for me to move into? And the custodian said, yeah, that's no problem. I can move her stuff, and I can get a room ready for her. And then the student counselor came in, and this has nothing to do with her, but she came into the room. She said, oh, I have roaches all the time. It's not a big deal for me. Maybe I'm just different. I'm just built different. All you have to do is make sure that your purse and your stuff is not on the floor, because these classrooms are old, and that's just how it is. But not all the classrooms are old. The classroom that I got when I talked to the custodian person, because he told me the two classrooms, my classroom and the one right next to mine, have the worst roach issue, and they're in this specific building because there's 3 different buildings in the school. He said the other buildings are renovated, so they don't have this issue. So when this counselor person is telling me this, I already know she's lying, because I know that there are newer buildings that are unoccupied. But instead of trying to tell her anything, I just, again, looked at the admin person and was waiting for a response. And eventually, the counselor person, I think, gave up trying to convince me to stay in my room. I think she felt like, oh, why would you, a black female, get a better room, but I don't get a better room? I think that's what she was thinking, but she was trying to say it in other ways. And so eventually I got the room, but this room, something that I noticed was, the first thing I noticed was that when I got the room, the second day, they had not told the night custodian, because there's a day and a night custodian. They had not told the night custodian that I had a new room. So the room, when I first got there the first day, was very, very dirty. It took me over an hour to sweep the room. And so when I got back the next day, I noticed that the trash hadn't been taken out, and the room looked exactly how I left it, which was not dirty, but it definitely required a custodian to clean it. And I had to actually find the custodian, the night custodian, and I told him, I don't know if you know, but I changed rooms. He is a white male, makes me incredibly uncomfortable, his demeanor and the way that he tries to speak to me. He said, oh, you got a new room? Why'd you get a new room? And the students are in the class, so the students are about to tell him, oh, there's roaches. But I just turn to the students, and I do a hand signal. It's like a waterfall, and they know to basically be quiet and go back to their work. So I did that hand signal, and they went back to their work, because I was not trying to divulge any information to him. And so he was like, just kept bothering me about the room situation and why I got the room. And eventually he left. Then when the students had PE, I was alone. he came into the room again, trying to take out the trash, and he came up to me and was like, oh, so it's interesting that you got a new room. He said, have you been working at this school district for a long time, or how long have you been working at this school district? I'm in a meeting right now while he's saying this, and he knows I'm in a meeting, and that was my fault for even talking to him because I shouldn't have responded to his question. But I told him, I just said, like, I've been working at this district for a while. He said, what other schools have you worked at? So I told him the other school that I worked at. This school has a black female principal, and I from the schools that I've worked at about 10 or 15. It's one of the better ones. He comes up to me, very, very close to me, and says, oh, that school is so ghetto. Like, he paused before he said ghetto to make sure that he enunciated the word very well. And then he just stopped to look at me for me to respond. But I didn't respond. I just looked at him with a blank face and then turned back to my meeting. And he eventually walked away. Makes me very uncomfortable. He's often slurring his words. I often see him just sitting around watching everyone, not actually working. I'm not the type of person to wonder why someone's not working or working, but he just seems to always be trying to follow people or get in their business. So that made me very uncomfortable. And then the last thing I wanted to say was, so there's two custodians. There's the night custodian and the day custodian. The day custodian is the one who helped me to get the room. But I noticed that there's a tree in front of my building, and there's 3 other classrooms. That tree produces a lot of flowers to the point where you can't even really walk into my room because there's flowers all over the floor. And they come into the room, so I'm constantly having to sweep them. And I noticed that in the morning, because I come a little bit like before, I noticed that he blows the leaf blower and blows all the flowers to my door and then doesn't blow them farther. And then one of the teachers asked me, he said, I noticed the custodian blows the leaves, but he doesn't do your door. He said, all of the leaves accumulate at your door. I said, I noticed the same thing too. I'm glad that you noticed. And so I asked the front office about it, and they said that they would talk to him about it. But there was only one day out of that month that I had that room for about 2 weeks that there wasn't any flowers. There was always flowers in front of the door. That made it impossible for me and my students to get in without bringing in a lot of dirt and getting the flowers all over me. The first time I even got into that room, I was walking into the room. He was blowing the leaf blower. I looked at him. He looked at me, and he blew the leaf blower in my direction, getting the flowers on me. And so I don't know if this is some sort of retaliation or annoyance about me moving the room, but there's some sort of reason. But either way, I'm not working at that school again, at least for the foreseeable future, so I don't have to think about that. That was mostly what I wanted to say. Besides that, I felt like I had a constructive time with the students. The other thing I wanted to say was the principal never came into the classroom. No one ever came into the classroom to check on the students or anything, which I found to be kind of concerning because I'm not a credentialed teacher. I'm a substitute teacher, but I was given a class. But I didn't have anyone who ever came in and checked. So I just think it's interesting for anyone who is a parent, just be sure that the person who's actually teaching your class is even a credentialed teacher, and make sure that they're keeping up with you with what the curriculum is, because they didn't really give me much of a curriculum, and they never checked up on me. Luckily, I care enough that I made my own curriculum and did that by myself. Sorry for being so lengthy. That's what I wanted to update on. Thank you.
Did I get in there? Much obliged, Z's mom. Am I hooked in? Make sure I'm in. Yikes. Mr. 3, let's see. What's going on? Ow. What's going on there? Can you all hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Okay, awesome. Two quick things. One, those leaf blowers are the most toxic thing in the history of everything. Why is it not? That's so odd. I don't understand that. Those leaf blowers are horrible. They are, just pollution on top of pollution. I don't know if that's in a terrible thing to waste, but they're bad on so many levels. And they are like one of the worst polluting instruments in the world. It's the gas in them, the way that it's burned, like that's one. And then even him blowing all the leaves at your feet when you enter the building or whatever it is, when you're going into the classroom, even that, when they have those leaf blowers, it blows everything. So that's a lot of times, they did studies on this. I can send you reports. They have detailed reports on how horrible these are for the environment. This is a part of it. So that when you blow all that stuff, it's dog feces, other toxins, Roundup, all of that other debris, oil runoff from vehicles and everything else, plastic galore, all of that is blown into the air when they do. So it's horrible for him, the race soldier that's blowing, and it's horrible for everybody that's around. And they're horrible, like one of the worst inventions, period. And so then him blow, that's like quadruple whammy to come now. I'm going to make sure I blow it, make sure I give her a good blast of poison. If you had that situation to do over again with the race soldier coming into the classroom, I think you said you were on a meeting and asking you all of these questions, how would you approach it if you had it to do over again?
I think I would have just said, "Excuse me, sir, I'm in a meeting," and put on my headphones and turn my head. And also for the leaf blower, he blew it in my face, so I actually had it in my hair, and the students had to help me get it out of my hair. So.
What a terrorist! All of that is just total, deliberate white terrorism. I didn't know that about the leaf blowers until very, very recently. But white terrorism at its worst. I'm sorry you had to. And in front of the see the same pattern, and he is the flipping custodian, race soldier or whatever. We're not talking about the superintendent or the principal. This is the white man who is running the school or what have you. In front of the students, pow! This is what we think of the Negras. Now, even to go all the way back to the beginning with this one, getting out of this environment, thank goodness, she says they offer her 2 flight times, 8:30 a.m., 9:40, that's it. Wait a minute, I teach, I have to get another day off of class, and, I've made a commitment to these students, and, there has to be some more flexibility. If I got to fly, it's not like this is, a 10-minute drive or a 5-minute walk down the street. If I got to fly out, like, can we work things out a little better? No response, no nothing. And then to find out that one of the people in HR who's doing all the contacting here, she goes on vacation. She's part of the people who clogged up the airports this weekend. No, that's exactly what she said, Z's mom. Hey, it's 2022. It's almost 2025, really. It is old news. Set your email up, forward, somebody contacts you, hey, out of the office, kicking it in, Tahiti or whatever, kicking it in Cancun, flying in Florida, be back in 9 days. Contact, Susan if you need something in the interim. Very simple, takes like 30 seconds to set up, really, really easy. Do the same thing on your voicemail, on the phone. Make sure this sort of thing doesn't happen. Total disregard for non-white people. Wacky. Oh, what I just said. The enforcement officers, I just seen them at the beach, and there they were again. I think that's like the quickest. Yeah, I used the same line. She just said, I'm on the phone. It's like, oh, sorry. And that was that. Wow. Who knew? I guess that only works if you're at the beach to say that you're on the phone. Anyway, the race soldier, not the principal, can come and terrorize teacher in front of the students, all that. She's going to go and get this other job, and they give her really limited time options in terms of when she can actually fly. That's, I commend you for having the black self-respect to step in and say, hey, this is not going to work. I'm not going to be able to take off another day from school or, whatever, my commitment to these children. We're going to have to figure out another day. And even accepting, because I think with that sort of thing, being honest with yourself that, hey, they might say, this nigger is too much trouble. We don't want her. We'll, give somebody else. We'll pick out one of our other clients or what have you. To accept that, because she said, hey, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if I still got an interview or what have you, because the race soldiers do that sometimes. Having the self-respect to still make that decision, if that's, I made this investment in these children, this means something to me, I'm dedicated about that, or whatever it is, even if it wasn't in a classroom situation, whatever the situation is, like, hey, if this means I'm not going to get this job or I'm not going to get this interview opportunity, that's what it means. Turns out, hey, we do want her, we'll figure it out. Hey, if they really want you as a client, even if they don't, like, this is not asking for something that is over and above in terms of, can we just pick, can I get more than these two options for the interview time? Like, I've heard many other people who have given, reasons that would be substantially less reasonable than that, and they were accommodated. We even had my man in Florida, he talked about the lady, she did her interview while she was getting a pedicure. That's not, hey, I got a commitment to my children. Hey, I have got a commitment to showing off my toes. It's summertime, wearing these open-toe shoes. That's what I got a commitment to, open-toe shoes. Now, let's get on with the interview. Come on. Bravo for getting the interview time moved. Now, back to the classroom situation that we're getting out of. The roaches and the total disregard for non-white students, non-white educators, in my opinion. Like, come on. We're in a school, it's summertime, right? It's not like we're at full capacity where you have 1,000 students or whatever it normally is. I think it's like 400, 500 students, whatever it normally is. It's 40 of us here. It's lots of space. Do we have to be in the room that has the worst vermin problem? That's the sort of thing where I'm like, now really, so what white people do you think are ignorant about racism? The janitor? How about the people who did the assignments for the rooms who just happened to put the Negro teacher in the room with the worst infestation problem? in a school with apparently lots of empty rooms. They could do echo, 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 right? They got lots of space. And we just happen to end up here. Then when I go out to Kindly, hey, maybe our students might do a little better this summer if we could get a room where we didn't have to fight off the roaches, maybe. And she said the counselor, white woman, comes back and says, what? I must be built different. I don't know. It doesn't bother me. You just don't put your purse on the floor and, don't sit things down. You doing all this complaining about a roach or two. My goodness, what's wrong with you? Built? What does that even mean? Now, that's what I mean about those metaphors. What does that even mean? I think she says these moms, she's like, oh, I'm a nigger. I'm supposed to be accustomed to roaches. These are my cousins, right? I'm all right with the roaches. That's no problem. Man. Black self-respect as well for not going into a whole lot of excuses and not even going back and forth with this white woman. I must be built different because I don't even think it's a problem. I'm surprised that you making a fuss about a few roaches here and there. So, are there empty classrooms available for the rooms? Is it possible for us to get just keep it moving? I don't even think this war is 2022. It's embarrassing that we're having this discussion at all. It's embarrassing that there's a room, period, where the children have to fight off roaches. Anywho, the fella comes in alone. That one, too. I would be really mindful. That is super suspect. Where really anybody, but especially like Gift of Fear, Gavin DeBecker, someone where you get some sort of sense that there's something not quite right about this person. They're coming around, they're asking these invasive questions. Where did you teach at before? Oh, really? Why did you all move? Really? Even that. You don't need to know where else I've taught at, to go, because now it's 2012. You got some people, they're really good. They can get online, and you'd be surprised what kind of information they can get. End up with your home information or anything. You're the janitor, you do not need to know my resume. Thank you, sir. Ian, I don't even need to add, like she said, pardon me, sir, I'm in a meeting. And then I would make sure I'm not going to be alone with you ever again. If I have to get up and go stand in the doorway, in the hallway, whatever it is, but you and I are not going to be alone together. She said he got all really close to her, too, when he came, and, oh, that's where you were, that school is ghetto, that sort of thing, too. Got to put the emphasis on, And that's all I have to say. That, to me, also, that feels like the type of setup, get you to say something, get you into a response type of thing. Anywho, and then the leaf blower, man, even the fact that some of the other educators noticed that this is not you, because so many times they gaslight us and they undermine our confidence. Man, well, I guess it's pretty hard if they get the leaf blower and blast you in the face. I guess you can't really ignore that. But at least, like she said, everybody else, oh, okay, we come around and boom, 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 spray the toxins or whatever, but they at least get the leaves up. Not Z's mom, no way. Here, we come and just matter of fact, probably get all the leaves from the complex and just leave a nice big mountain right in front of her door. And then a little extra when I see her, I'm going to pow, get her a blast. Take that toxin with you to start your day. Now, I want you to imagine in your wildest, most intoxicated July 4th dream that you can come up with. Fentanyl, Jack Daniels, anything you can concoct. Can you imagine the black O.J. Simpson I'm the school janitor. White female teacher. And I come blast her with the leaf blower. What world do I still have a job? And I pile the leaves up in front of her daily before all, and then come in the classroom where it's just us, and get all close. Really? Where did you used to work at? That's the salty part of town. I don't even know what the white part of town would be, but whatever. The salty part of town. Like what world am I still employed? If not arrested, castrated? Come on. Context of White Supremacy. The janitor, I can't say that enough. The janitor. She didn't say the principal. She didn't say the superintendent. She didn't say another teacher. She didn't even say, like, the guidance counselor, the cafeteria cook, the custodial worker. Neely Fuller, he's talking about that place's ghetto. Fuller say, where is the ghetto? You are the ghetto if you are subject to racism, white supremacy. Ghetto indeed. 720-716-7300, the code 564943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. Let's see. Other folks with a hand up, caller in Florida, caller in Ohio should be with us also.
Can I get in here?
Caller in Ohio? Yes, sir.
I want to just make maybe a suggestion to the young woman who just on the phone about the janitor asking questions about why she was moved to another room. When I heard what you explained of the events that occurred, in my opinion, I think he might have something to do with those roaches being there. He sounds like a very creepy type of individual. I can't think of a better word right now. But he seems like the type of creepy individual to do things like that, to go and plant insects in the room of a black person and then act like they don't know what's going on. Because, I mean, what value does it add in his life to know why you got moved from the room you're in to the room you're at now? To have that type of interest, in my opinion, it says he has something to do with it. That's just my opinion. You made a statement about the use of emojis on the, let's just say, listener who writes in. There's a field of study in artificial intelligence about the application of emojis because they are a way of communication, you know, so they like to study it to figure out what's really being conveyed with emojis, because before you might have to say, like, the actual thing you want to go do, but if you use emojis to convey the events you want to see happen, it's kind of hard to, you know, track that as easy as it is with words. So I would say for you guys to look at how emojis and AI and the study of emojis through the use of artificial intelligence, that's going to develop out to be pretty big. To that, the person who writes in, I got a question for you. It seems like you guys do a lot of conferences on those messaging apps. Do you actually screen capture those things? Because I remember in one of the letters or email she sent, she stated they're only around for roughly 30 days. So anything that was discussed would be, you know, deleted after that period of time. So my question to them is, are you actually screen capturing and recording those events? Not just screen capture, but actual recording the whole chat log or the whole conversation. Because if you're doing it on a laptop and even on a lot of mobile devices, that's pretty common to be able to capture a whole conversation, not only in audio, but in video form. So that's why I say screen capture. That's something that I suggest, because that's another way of keeping records. And I think that those who know about technology, particularly if you're at certain levels of management, I think they teach you about the application of it, and how it can be used in a positive way and how it can be used against you. So I would advise her, or that person, because I don't know if it's he or she, to utilize screen capture technology with all the communication and store it on something that is specifically yours that they can't touch, because if you're using their devices, they can wipe it very easily without you even knowing. So that's my suggestion. One last thing, it's not workplace. I guess it's more of a business matter, but if you get a chance, Gus, you should check out what's been going on in Black Tech Twitter, and particularly in the investor area. So for the last about year or so, there's been a lot of talk about having more black venture capitalists and venture capital-based firms being run by, hold on a second, walking down the street, people busting out fireworks, being run by black people. And what's been very interesting is quite a few of the people who have tech ideals end up having to do what's called pitching investors. So you pretty much put together like what's called a pitch deck, which is pretty much you laying out what your company does, your experience, blah, blah, blah. Now, I hate to use blah, 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 but it's just other things you want to include in there, right? And one of the things that's been happening, because somebody created some type of technology where, I forget if it's DocuSign or who it was, but it went from you just sending the pitch deck and maybe never hearing from the investor or not knowing anything about what's happening or how much the investor viewed it, to now you can actually view the stats. So when did the investor or potential investor open the pitch deck? Which slides did they read? How long did they stay on those slides? And a whole lot of black folks are starting to find out just how racist these white wealthy investors are. There's been an uptick in these people now coming out who were black, classified as black, saying, wow, you know, the investor was looking at the deck seriously until it got to the slide with my picture on it, and then all of a sudden they looked at that slide for the shortest period of time and then clicked off. So if you get a chance, you should check it out. I might tag you on some of the posts. And what really got me was the fact that on one of them, the last one, there was a black guy, and it's a pretty slick idea he has. I think is very workable. But what he was saying is, he stated that hey, they looked at all the decks, and then as soon as they got up to my picture, they clicked off. And you should see all the comments of white people coming in there covering for racism. Oh, that might not be what it is, and you know, you might want to rearrange your pitch deck and put this part of it first. And people will tell them, like, I've done that multiple times. I've adjusted all the slides around, and I keep getting the same result when they get to the, you know, pick the part of the deck that has my picture. And it's just interesting to see how many of these white folks, who themselves aren't even investors, by the way, just regular white folks, come in there, chiming in, trying to give advice. Oh, don't look at it that way. Don't let hate win. You know, you got to focus on growing as a person. So I think it'd be interesting for y'all to check it out, because even though you do have a little bit more, I guess I'd say movement you can make, meaning that you're not stuck having to try to deal with one investor as a black person, as opposed to when you work, you're stuck with dealing with one company. But all that happens is you just got to deal with a lot more racist white people who have a lot more money. And with that, I'll mute my line.
Brother say, don't let hate win. Yes, 2022. Don't let hate win. No idea what that means. Or growing as a person. No idea what that was. See, they just pile them up on you when they come in with, it's not racism. You just need to grow as a person. It's not racism. You just switch. And see, he said it was regular old Joe Schmo white person. They're not investors? What do you know? Are you an expert? Have you done a portfolio before? Nah, but I know it's not racism. That also, standard operating procedure. Now that right there, hey, I think, what was that? Within the last 10 days or so, somebody dialed in and they said they were talking with their friends or whatever, and black people, I guess, and they said that they would just say, it's not really this racism thing. I'm not on all that. I just want to make some money. That's what it is. Just need to make some money. It's a money problem. It's really just about that green, and if we just can make some money, things will be straight. So, I wouldn't debate them. Obviously I have a different conclusion, but I would ask, how much money do you think you'll need for racism to never be a problem again for you? Because it seems like that would have to be an astronomical figure if it exists at all. And he said these folks, they put these projects together, and I'm sure many of these folks probably have some spectacular ideas. I know they do. Put their time, energy together, got my pitch, got my proposal, boom, boom, got great photos, everything. Ideas, great, bam. They get to the picture. Black, get back. Heard that before. All over the world, in fact. All areas of people activity. Now that is mighty deflating. You do all that. He said, people change the deck around. Okay, so I put it, my picture was, 50th in the slide. Now it'll be 20th. Now it'll be, I'll move it, make it 70th, but make it at the very, very end. So they see everything so they can be really wowed by the project. And then, it just happens a nigger did it. No big deal. Nope, doesn't matter. They get to that spot to say, is that? Yeah, I'm good. Okay. System of white supremacy racism trumps everything. And then go through all of that and have some idiot, and I'm in this context, someone, they're not even an expert. In fact, this isn't even their field. They work, at Krispy Kreme. I'm not disparaging anyone who makes donuts, but I mean, really, you make pastries for a living. How are you going to tell me about the best way to organize your pitch for a venture capitalist? Really? If I was talking about confections, then maybe I'd, hear you out. But I mean, but it's not racism. Disgraceful, man. Disgraceful. Much obliged. I will check it out. Just further ammunition in terms of what the problem is and making sure that we are not confused about that, so that, these type of things happen. Just further reinforcement, further evidence. This is the problem that we have to correct before we can get anything else taken care of. And in fact, taking care of this problem might solve a lot of other problems too. Just maybe. Let's see. Other folks who dialed in, if we missed you totally, if you have a hand up, line should be open.
May I be heard?
Caller in Florida? Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Greetings to Gus, the host, the listeners, and callers. I would like to share some reports from the last couple of weeks, actually. Just really quick. There was some anti-blackness and the black misandry where, and this has happened before, where, because I work with majority females in general, mostly white females. So another black male, older black male, walks through the area, and as he's leaving, he says, "Man, that's a huge stain on the carpet." And then one of the coworkers, she said, "Yeah, it's been there for months, and they haven't done anything about it." So he 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 looks at me for about like 5 or 6 seconds, and I just knew it. I knew something non-constructive was going to come out, and he said, "Oh well, he did it." You know, he said my name, and then I just asked the question. So the black person did it, and then everybody just turned around and looked at me, and he was like, "What do you mean the black person?" I said, "Me." So, are you saying the black person did it? And he said, "Well, you know, I'm saying this to you because you're a guy, you're a male, and she's black." So, and then before he could finish, the black female says, just go, just leave, don't even say nothing." So, he never really answered the question necessarily. But the reason I'm saying that is that one of them tropes, right? Where the black person, the black guy, but he said because I'm a guy, you know, I'm the only male employee in the area. So I guess that makes me responsible for a large stain on the carpet away from where I'm assigned, away from the desk that I've been assigned. It's more so close to where they are, but I was blamed for it, and by another black male. So that's the first one. The second is, once again, another victim of racism sharing her DCF type of court case going on, and I've just taken on a code to really not speak on it because I think it wouldn't be constructive. But she's sharing this with coworkers, for the most part, 2 white women, and it's just it's just really inappropriate. And once again, she did that threat where she says, "I know it's not something. I know God doesn't like wishing death on people, but if he gave me one chance, then it would be him." The father, what she likes to say, DNA, that's the term, biological, right? But she said DNA of her son. If I had one chance, then it would be him. You know, so contempt shown in talking to white people. And one other thing she said was that if you stick your penis in a child, you are SHIT. So this, I mean, and she's saying that she's, you know, doing therapy. And I know with listening to Dr. Wilson, mental health and everything, I thought about that when she brought that up. She says she feels good going to therapy as someone you don't know. And I keep my child in therapy. And they say black men don't like to go to therapy, but mine's going. Mine is going. So I don't know if that was supposed to get a response, but a response out of me, because the area in which she said it was close to where I was sitting, but I didn't say anything. So, you know, also during that day, she's being very physical, hugging on people initiating hugs with her, just kind of tacky in that way. Especially she ran up to a white woman that I know from, you know, just from what I heard, showing contempt for her. She ran up and initiated a hug on her. And I could hear her say, like, you know, "Oh, okay, like, what are you doing?" basically. So it's the emotionalism was shown, and it's just, it seems like, unfortunately, a lot of, you know, issues, personal life issues going on there. But I'm just saying that just to say that shouldn't be done in the workplace like that. I wanted to reiterate that. And I got like 3 more. I had a conversation with the white woman supervisor, very, very refined, because I pointed out, number one, real quick, that, hey, you know, how is it that you get the part out here in the administrative spots? It's only 4 of them. And then the court staff has all of the rest of them. Like, I think she didn't expect me to bring that up. So she was so discombobulated that she said it was 5 spots. I said, no, actually it's 4 spots. So she was like, well, I don't know what this really has to do with the work and the job. I said, you know, all of the connection of power that you have, you know. And I said, didn't you say you were texting who I call the warden whenever there's a spot available? I'm like, no other supervisor, and I named the black female. She doesn't have access to it. So she named another black person. I was like, but that's not that's not the person who I was talking about. So, you know, we went on with the conversation. And she said she's not a supervisor. So she went on and named another white woman to use an example. I couldn't remember what it was for, and she used the term, this is an assistant supervisor. So I said, wait a minute. Now you're saying she's an assistant supervisor, but you're not a supervisor. How does that make sense? You know, questions. Aren't you a supervisor as well? But then you say you were a manager. She says, well, it depends, you know, it depends on what you think should be used or something like that. So she, you know, I just try to make sure I'm paying attention, because she also, because like I said also that I don't disclose, you know, I really think it's constructive to not disclose any personal information. I'm here to get the work done and represent the office the best way I can. Okay, so she went into a question about 2 of the coworkers on what I call the segregated side, where the dark-skinned people, myself, and 2 other people are. She says, "Do blank and blank? Do they talk a little too much about things?" I was like, I said no. I said, I'm saying what I don't do. I said, if you're talking about that, that's going on all over the office. So I think she was trying to, as they say, bait me into, I guess, saying something about one of them. And I had 2 more. The dress code, I think there's one white woman being very bold and arrogant, and she wore a red bandana. And I think this was in response to the lack of participation coming from the black employees and practicing racism just in general, because it really got me thinking with this morning, and I was going to send you an image, Gus, so you can see it was a department image, like they took a group picture. So they had arranged, I'm thinking they arranged to wear red shirts. So the new black female at the switchboard, she pointed out that, hey, you see how they do us, pointed at the white woman, and she had on a red color shirt. Well, she was speaking to a black female, and they didn't have on no red shirt. They just had on just, I guess, some kind of blue or whatever the color was, stripes. So I started thinking, and I said, man, on the white side, I went over there, and just about everybody had on some kind of red shirt or tank top. So I'm like, yeah, they had to coordinate that. And I wanted to bring that up because of the unjust networking. And one of the clique members, she came in and said, hey, you know, I told everybody I was going to wear red today on Friday. And I think they organized that together just to also mention that Voltron effect. And my last one is another white woman that's a part of that gang. She made a comment about her own child. She called the child a crack baby. She said, stop acting like a crack baby, you know, and the white guy she procreated with said, oh, don't call him that. Oh, you know, I'm not going to call him that in public, just only around us. So, whatever that meant. So, yeah, she was using the term crack baby, and I looked at the two coworkers I worked next to, and they pretty much got quiet. And that's all I have to share. Thanks for allowing me to speak.
Acting like a crack baby myself, fumbling with the mute button. Let me make sure. The caller at 5071, did you have commentary you wanted to get in before we close out so I don't miss any folks? Are you just listening? Caller, last four digits, 5071, just listening, or did you have commentary?
I did.
We can hear you. Proceed. Oh, did you already? Oh, maybe she already got to share. Maybe maybe she already shared. Make sure we didn't miss anybody. If we already got 5071, didn't think she had. Maybe that's Z's mom. I got confused. If that's Z's mom, then we got everybody. Great. All right. We start off with all the ugly. Oh my gosh. Man, black person has to be blamed. He said the stain on the floor, and the black fella came in. He said he looked at him. He said he didn't think, oh man, he's going to say, my black brother. It's good to see. We just had Juneteenth, and my brother. Keep on fighting the good fight. The struggle. He didn't think he was going to say that. He said, I knew it was going to be something non-constructive. My black brother. There's the sound effect that for Juneteenth. My goodness. Oh, there we go. Yes. For the stain on the floor and room full of white people who could have been blamed, but
Black brother, like brother of hell.
Yes, you did it. You did it right there. And he stayed in the question lane. I love it. So the black person put the blemish on the floor. That's what that means. Everyone's not like, oh God, oh there he goes again. Why did you get him started? He said, no, brother, no, black brother. I'm not saying that. Just you're the male of the group. Yeah. That's like, I'm sure they got the bailiff there ready to hit the panic button and all that. Like, yes, I stained the floor, of course. Black male privilege again. Let's see and then he followed that one up with and we'd heard that one before, with the mother who was wishing death on the black father. I mean, hey, I wouldn't care what he did. We got the white woman who her partner was going around slashing throats and things. I mean, he might be holding out on us, caller in Florida. Maybe she, is going around saying that about him all the time. If I could kill one person and get away with it, I'd kill him. Man, you talking about slashing throats and all this embarrassing. Maybe she's walking around saying that, but I haven't heard, any reports like that. I wouldn't care. And even if she is doing that, in a system of white supremacy racism, don't ever think you are special. They see the other niggers that way, and you are different. That is never the case. So you sitting there and talking about, oh, my lame baby. He said, the person who gave DNA to my son, to my child. Like, good Lord. I mean, okay, you want to sit around and talk that way, man. Racist man, racist. Look at these niggers. Crack babies and ghetto mothers having all these, the ghetto queens, that's what it is. The welfare queens having all these children. And look at it. That's how she talks about it. That's the nigger. That's the nigger. That's what they're thinking. They're not thinking that he is some low-life, no-count shiftless. They're thinking you, all of us, all of y'all, because it'll be you as the reference point, all of y'all are like that. That's what they're thinking. Even your white friend, that's what they're thinking. That is a horrendous idea. Even if you work with all non-white, I think the young lady, she wrote in, she just said, like, I got a black female subordinate writing in and telling me about her blood pressure problems and all this, like, TMI. Some things do not need to be shared in the workplace. We've had many examples this evening. Let's see. Not saying anything I think is great for all of that. The question laying with the first one, excellent. But yeah, I'm not going to participate in any of that. I have nothing to say. Or about the case, none of that. I have nothing to say. The parking segregation, that beautiful. Now she said connection to power. Like, whoa. Who do we need a connection to get the parking situation addressed, to find out who qualifies, what's the protocol, all of that? Who do we need to talk to? What do you mean we don't have a connection to, where are they at in the building? Can I make office hours to go visit and discuss this? She got all confabulated and confused about the parking. They rotate. I've seen that. They have like employee of the month. That's how they do it in some places. And I have seen where they do have that royalist thing where, like, you know, the CEO and maybe the vice president or somebody else would be like three, like you said, 3 or 4 powerful white people. Sometimes it'll be one powerful white person. They get right up at the front door, and then everybody else has to park back at the dumpster, whatever. But just, what's the protocol? I've been here for 10 years, been in the newsletter 8 times. What's the protocol for getting one of these nice, spiffy parking spots? Well, I don't know. You know, I don't even know how to. I can't even spell. You know, I don't even. What? What? You can't even get a what? And then naming black people that you know. Any conversation where we're talking about a connection of power, you know, this conversation does not end with Leroy, Neely Fuller, Gus T. Get out of here, naming nigger. You know they didn't pick who get these parking spots. Come on, man. Messing around, practicing racing over parking places like it's something so tacky. Like they rotate it some places. You don't get to have the spot for, 10 years. Everybody gets a little dip of, you can park right at the front door for, a few days or whatever. Well, they could do that there at the courthouse. What's wrong with that? Be democratic about it, lowercase d. Let's see. And then she said, get even tackier with an ass. She said, well, are you a supervisor? Well, it depends on how you look at it. Some days they might say I'm a supervisor. Might say I'm an employee. What? Now, even that, when in a workplace context ever is someone vague about, are you a supervisor? And they give you that sort of response. Well, supervisor's a vague thing, All this, again, we just talking about the parking. And the bench, come on, the bench. It does not get any better than tacky, man. The red bandana, and then they coordinated so that we all wear the red except the niggers. They didn't let the niggers know we're going to wear red on Friday. And even the does not get any better than tacky through and through. They could even pick something cool, like literal cool is summertime in Florida, so they could have picked white, right? Everybody loves that, right? Could have wore white. No. Could have all picked Go Gators, right? Wear our Tim Tebow gear and reminisce. No. We get our little Klan behavior and unjust networking, as you said, do our little red and then come in and, hey, why is she wearing stripes and everybody else is wearing red? And then the red bandana too, like I said, like, gotta be tacky, gotta get my Tupac on about all this, imitate the black people, like, really? At the courthouse, no less, a red bandana, really? Gotcha. And then the crack baby on top of it all. Hey, you could at least fast forward, right? It's 2022. Why not the dog food baby? We are in the opioid epidemic, right? Let's catch it up. This is not the 90s. No longer Miami Vice and all of that. Decades gone by, right? Old timey. Let's catch it up current. We don't want any, opioid baby, any fentanyl babies, right? That's current. No. Crack baby. We talked about that. Very first year of the cows, 2009, Dorothy Roberts, like all of that is white supremacy. Because, everybody knows who you're talking about. Crack baby, like I said, you could have picked one more current. You got some people might not, well, I guess crack baby is pretty, you have to be real confused to not know what that is. But they know who you're talking about. You're not talking about these little white children. You're talking about Leroy. Gus T, that's who you're talking. You're not behaving like these little niggers, are you? You didn't say that out in public, like, what in the world? And then she said, I guess the husband felt some type of like, dear, why are you saying that out in public? Gee whiz. She's, just say it with us. We're in the courthouse. They can hear it too. Good Lord. Calling him a crack baby. My God. Have another little Dylan Roof grow up with that sort of commentary. My goodness. Didn't say prescription pills. Could have taken that one too. That's a lot of white people doing that. Right in Florida, no less. Does not get any better than tacky. Now, that's how that family behaves in public. My God, I cannot imagine what that looks like, If that's supposed to be the behind closed door conversation, calling a child a crack baby, wow. Hope she's not a school teacher down in DeSantis land. With that, I think we nabbed everybody. Didn't get confused on the switchboard. We did our 3 and we'll be here tomorrow and Sunday. Cannot wait. Go Buffalo for Sunday. White people back on the program. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Anyway, much obliged for everyone's participation. Hopefully it was worthy of your Friday evening. We'll be here tomorrow for the compensatory call-in, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. Man, this weekend, like any other time, you're like, man, Gus is a coon. You can be by yourself and prudish, lame, all that. I'm going to have a good time. Going out and party, fine. For this weekend, sobriety would be best. You're going to go out and do all that stuff. You're having a party, as I said, cookout, whatever it is, fine. If you got to consume something, get to one spot and stay there. Like for the night, stay there. I would expect sobriety checkpoints, all of that, like probably until next weekend, especially if you live someplace with a high concentration of black people. People outside the States, bravo for you. You don't have to deal with all this for the next week or so. Folks in the States, I would behave. If you're traveling, be safe. Plan in advance for chaos. If you're out and about at the airport or wherever, somebody is being hostile and loud, hey, exit as much space as you can. You are not ready to fight and kill. Unless you are ready to kill, die, all of that right now. Exit, get away from that person, call enforcement officers as you are trying to get distance and exit the situation. If you're in a vehicle, you are sober, buckled up, not on a mobile device. We need all of our attention and doing the small things to minimize contact with race soldiers, badge or no. That said, Creator, we ask that you help us remain patient with other black people, victims of white supremacy. We ask that you help us remain patient with ourselves. Remind us to demonstrate the highest levels of black self-respect at all times, in all places, each and every time, we are in contact with another black person. It has been time. Replace white supremacy with justice immediately. Cal signing out. Thanks all for tuning in. No name calling, no gossiping, no reckless production of offspring. Cal signing out. Thanks all for tuning in.